Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. We're co-streaming on our channels.
We are indeed.
Yeah, we are. We are. And we're going to wait for some of you to come in. I could see some of you coming in now. But my name is Nicholas Polymenakos.
And I am Natalie H.
Hi, Natalie H. Some of you know me, Sparkles of Gold. Let's say you're coming from Natalie's channel. I'm Sparkles of Gold. And for those coming into my channel, this is an old pal of mine.
And very old pals.
Yeah, an old friend of mine, Natalie H. And I see a
Yeah.
couple of you in chat. I see KP and KP1231 in mine. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah.
KP.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot to do a story on my IG, so I'm gonna do it while we're doing this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're waiting for people to jump in and stuff.
But we're gonna wait for people to come in.
Okay.
Happy Wednesday, happy Mercury Day to everybody.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Oh, Scorpio Mouse. Hi,
Yeah,
Natalie. Hi. Oh, nice to
Scorpio Muse.
see
That's
you.
somebody from comes into my channel. Yep, I see.
Oh, hi, Polly. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Awesome.
You keep
Love
talking in
it.
there because I'm gonna get the story I should have put up.
Okay.
So,
All right. No worries. We can chill. We got some time. And the
filming
House
it
of
right
Wigs.
now.
Yay, just catching a few minutes here. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Are you having a wonderful day so far? How's your Valentine's Day going? What's your feeling today? Good, bad, in between?
That's a loaded question.
I know. I know, right? I know. I know. Well, for those of you that are coming from my channel, Natalie H, you probably haven't met Nicholas yet. And Nicholas and I have been good friends for, it's been like 17 years now that we've been friends. So, yes,
17 years?
17 years
You're
we've known each
counting.
other. Yep, I am actually counting that because when we get to 20 years, we'll have to have a party. Um, the House of Wigs, weird energies out there. No, we 100% agree. And we feel like you guys are like much safer being here with us than out there in that scary world. So we are glad that you are here. Hi,
Yeah,
Sarah
and
Sunshine.
that's an old pal of mine here in town who owns a shop, and I agree with Erica, House of Twigs, on the weirdness, the vibes out there. Yep, yeah,
Yep.
and Sarah in chat says jittery and obtuse. That's a great explanation, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for the type of vibes that are happening. So,
1000%.
yeah.
Yep. And we'll talk about that. We are going to be talking about the transits as well. And one thing I was telling Nicholas, one thing I saw today on on a walk this morning was a gentleman standing by a sign, and he was by a school, an elementary school, holding a chainsaw and picking pieces of dust out of the chainsaw. And I thought, wow, that is a Mars Pluto visual if I've ever saw one.
Let's just play with fire. Let's
Yeah.
play with
And
a
I'm
chainsaw in front of a school. Yeah, so,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like somebody like you're walking by, someone that's driving by, some kid's gonna look out the window.
Oh,
It's like,
no,
"What?
what's going
What the
on?
hell is that?"
Yeah. And I felt a little jittery turning my back and walking the other direction with that behind me. So, yes.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Ashburn says, "Hello, yes, I'm chilling at home and here with y'all." Yes, very
Good
good.
to meet you and see you, Jacqueline, and
Mhm.
welcome. Yeah, we, as we wait for some people to come in, yeah, we're gonna talk here in the beginning after we chill and introduce ourselves and wait for some people to come and chat. We're gonna talk about some of the transits this week, and then after that, we're gonna somehow segue into a mystery chart, a person that some of
Yep.
you will know and not know. A disclaimer: um, Natalie picked this chart, and she's got a knack for picking. I think from our conversation over the years, well-known people and the interesting stories behind them. So we have an interesting chart we're gonna put up and dissect.
Mhm.
And
Particularly for Valentine's Day, right? It's a good one. I mean,
maybe,
maybe not. I don't
maybe
know.
we'll see what this
Yes.
what people are gonna think. Uh,
Yes.
but
Ah.
hello,
Joe,
Joe and
hello.
Andrea in chat.
Yeah.
I see you. Um,
Ooh, symmetry. Yay. Symmetry and happy Thursday from New Zealand, Joe says, and happy Valentine's Day. Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Aw.
Got some old friends here too. I'm seeing in chat, and Leanne. Hey, Leanne. Yeah. Valentine's Day. Hey, I never. What? Do you know anything about this, Natalie? Galentine's Day. What I saw
Oh,
people
yeah.
celebrate. What the hell does that mean? I forgot.
Yeah, Galentine's Day, and anyone who's here who's a gal or considers themselves a gal
Oh, okay.
can be Galentine's with me, but if you want to be, and also with Nicholas too, we'll all be Galentine's together. But basically, Galentine's Day is appreciation of female friendships, and sometimes women will like go out to eat together and like buy each other little gifts, and instead of making the day all about romantic relationships. And I actually think it was Amy Poehler from Parks and Rec, I want to say, that started Galentine's Day. For those
Huh.
of you that have seen Parks and Rec, she had always had a big, huge Galentine's Day celebration for all of her girlfriends. Like, put in a ton of effort for it.
Okay, some people in chat are mentioning. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, good. I was clueless because it was weird because I was going through my IG feed and stories. I'm like, people were celebrating yesterday. I'm like, what is this? I had no clue. I've never seen it
yeah,
before.
yep.
And I kind of run solo in my life alone, and maybe next year I'll have a. Can I have a
Galentine.
Galentine's Day?
Yes,
Can I invite all
absolutely.
my girl pals?
Yep, yep. And
That might be dangerous with me.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think it's clear cut and dry.
yeah.
Anatomy wise and straight guy wise, it just changes everything. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
I got to
Galentine's
come up with something
Day.
else.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Thank you for telling me about
Mhm.
Valentine's Day. Yeah, because I
Yep.
saw parties and cooking and gifts, and I
Yep.
was like, it was like Christmas sort of ish, but it was, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So
People really getting down and having a good old time for Galentine's Day.
yeah, before I went to sleep last night, Natalie, I was actually I did a reel, or not a real story, and the thumbnail for our YouTube videos, and I was just saying we're love bombing you, and I was thinking about this, and I was like, and I was thinking about, I don't know when love bombing became in words, probably in the last 5 years, maybe 6 years,
Yeah.
possibly,
Yep.
but love bombing is like, for me, in the end, connotation wise and story wise, kind of could be detrimental,
Oh,
or
yeah.
right? We're
Yep.
joking, we're gonna love bomb you, but
Yeah.
most of the time, love bombing is some. What
Yeah.
would you say?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think love bombing is, I mean, we're being fun and silly with it, but like on a serious note, love bombing is an actual thing that happens in the beginning of a relationship where somebody like just really goes overboard with compliments and gifts and relating to someone together 24/7, making big promises about the life they're going to have together, and it's all done with the intention to bring down the walls and bring down the boundaries of the person that they're targeting. And so that is what love bombing is. And yesterday, when you and I were kind of talking before, we mentioned what would be like a planetary combination for like a love bombing situation in a
Yeah.
chart, which we can't tell you right now because it's in the chart we're looking at later. But
Yes,
we
it
will
is.
tell you what we think that combination of planets would be, if you're looking at a chart of somebody who has the potential to be a love bombing type of a person. Yeah.
Now I know why
Hmm.
you picked the chart and did the title. I
Yep.
kind of see what you're doing now, and then, so let me get this straight, okay? Everybody watching here, I just want to tell you, like, for just meeting you, how incredible you are, and I think you and I have a connection, and I don't care about anybody else. I don't, you know, I just think about you all day, and I think you're perfect for me, and
Oh,
I could, even though we just met, I think it's perfect forever. And
forever.
here's a gift for you. You don't mind that I text you every 5 minutes all
Oh,
day long, do you?
oh, I love it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Where's
And
yeah, soulmates forever.
yeah,
Even though we just met 5 minutes ago, soulmates forever.
and those other people, they don't know you like I know you.
No, that's true.
I've been
That's
watching you
true.
from afar.
Yep, yep. Me too. I every night since we met 2 days ago, dream of you, think about you every minute.
all the time. Yeah,
Meant
there's
to be. Yep.
it's
So
totally
that's where we anyway, you guys if you guys
so
haven't figured it out yet, Nicholas is a Gemini and he is tricking us. Twin flames forever, right?
yeah.
Says
So
symmetry.
I just had to try to do some love bombing basically to our
Mhm.
audience. Uh,
Mhm.
um, so I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing some funny things. Oh, get love, give loves in the chat. Some Pluto obsession, Devon says. Yes, there's
Yep.
definitely that involved
For
with the
sure.
love bombing you too. Like, not only am I love bombing you, I'm watching you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm watching you. So anyway, that's the title of our thing. But I know when we get to our celebrity well-known chart here, after we talk about the transits, this will connect because I know what you're talking about in the chart, Natalie, of what we're going to show
Yes.
here later here
Yep.
about
Yep.
the love. That's more than love bombing.
Have you have you guys have you Nicholas just tried to love bomb our audience. Now, also too, which I considered doing, by the way. I was like, I am going to, really try to do that as well and see if the audience notices. But just having you all here is amazing. So, but yeah, with the love bombing, interesting. We will get to that. We will look at it. And for those of you that are like on TikTok and you've heard the word Delulu, where are all my Delulu girls at? Girls and
Okay,
boys
okay,
at?
wait a
Raise your
second.
hand.
I'm
If
out of
you
the loop.
if
Okay, so
you're
now I know about Galentine's.
yeah, yeah.
The Lulu delusional.
Delulu. Yes. We want to look at and it's so funny because on TikTok, there's this trend of people being like, I don't even care about being based in reality anymore. Like, I'm just escaping reality and I'm going to become like Delulu. And so people were telling other people that they're Delulu. And so I think, all of our like, true crime baddies who love to use the word Delulu will love our chart tonight. So, yes, Symmetry raises her hand, Delulu.
It reminds me of a show that's on Netflix called
Yeah.
You. Have you watched it?
Yes,
It's
yes.
totally some of the stuff we're gonna talk about today, but I mean that's over the edge, but yeah. Oh, Canada Dry. Thank you for the super
Oh,
chat.
oh, this is so sweet.
Appreciate it. Canada Dry is coming up from my channel. V-Day chocolates on me. Thank you so much, Canada Dry. We split in super chat, so is that what we're gonna do, Natalie? We're gonna figure that out,
I think we got to do like because the spirit of Mars Pluto, we have to like duel to the death
Oh,
for our
sure, no
super
problem.
chats. Like, you know what
I'm
I mean? I'm just
Mars and
kidding.
Aquarius, Pluto square Sun. You down? I'm down.
I
Good.
know, I
Right.
know. Oh, look what I've got myself into. Yes, Gypsy Rose. Yeah, Sarah Sunshine. That's interesting that you mentioned Gypsy Rose Blanchard because in her chart there is a aspect in her chart that is also in the chart that we're talking about tonight. So it's not Gypsy Rose Blanchard, but she shares an aspect in the chart of the one we're talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
we'll make a note of that. We'll remember because when we get to the aspect, then you can
Hmm.
bring it together.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Definitely.
yeah, good to see you all for coming in here. And I know people are going to go in and out today, but it's kind of funny talking about this Delulu and Galentine's and love bombing. Should we pull up a chart here to see where we're at right now?
Let's do it.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Let me see. Let me move my thing here because let's see if I can do this. And I will go here. Yeah.
Symmetry, I just saw your comment. Delulu is the Sululu, the solution. Delulu.
I'm seeing a T Swift watch. Oh my God. I can go off on that whole chart business. I will
Yeah.
say something. It's sort of a prediction.
Mm,
She's got a 2-degree Venus in Aquarius.
okay.
She's got Pluto. She's talk about last week and this week with somebody who's about to have a Venus return. Mars is going to hit 2 degrees right now, next couple of days. Pluto's on her Venus for the whole year,
Yep.
right? There's a couple other things I saw. Like here's a major Uranus something that she's had. So I have a feeling in the next so many weeks or something, but when we get into summertime, I think there's some formality that comes in.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, I love it. Let's do it, right? Let's do it. We got the and
Something to
the
connect it to all that.
yeah.
Anyway, so okay,
Yeah.
so here's the
Yep.
transits for right now. Actually, let me update it to where we are right now. Here we go. And let's just point out where we are today with the oh, that's not what I want. I want an arrow. And so that's not an arrow, that's a circle. There is
Ye
our 25-degree Aquarius sun.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And let's just point out that here is Pluto at 0 degrees. Okay.
Mhm.
And for those who don't know, yesterday Mars went into Aquarius, and like last night ish, Mars had its official conjunction with Pluto right here. Pretty much they're still there, right? In between it all, which is interesting, here is Mercury, right? It's already halfway through its transit, speeding through. It's moving super fast right now. But here is where we are moon-wise.
Mm.
You have anything to say to that?
Yeah. And when you look at that, now this is the chart for right now for Valentine's Day. So, one thing to think about if you're here with us tonight is if I was, out on a dinner date for Valentine's Day, how would I feel about the moon Jupiter conjunction in Taurus? Like, how would that hit me? And but of course, we just want to talk about the moon in Taurus by itself as well, which the moon is exalted in Taurus. It's a strong moon, but that moon is also squaring Mars as well. And we will get into more of that. But I think the positive side of things with the moon, Jupiter and Taurus would be, people getting really lovely gifts or people getting lots of chocolates and candies and treats and eating too much. I was telling Nicholas that my boyfriend actually this morning like cooked me breakfast and he made the most insane amount of French toast and eggs. Like I couldn't even barely put a dent in it with how big of a meal that was. So, big, beautiful meals are definitely that, moon Jupiter energy.
Serious sugar,
Yep.
serious sugar carb
Yep.
Venus rule thing. You know what I mean? Taurus moon here. So
Yep. Can you imagine people on their Valentine's Day dates going and sitting at the restaurant and like gorging themselves on the triple decker brownie? But then, but
right
then,
at the end of
but then,
dinner, yeah,
but
yeah.
then look at the moon is squaring Mars. So people are going to be getting stomach aches. They're going to be like, I ate way too much. My stomach is on fire. Um,
So here,
so,
what you're saying for people just to go here. I'll use pink, and there's the moon. Yeah,
mhm.
officially squared earlier, but it's in play. It's in pretty much in
Yeah.
play while the moon is in Taurus, and there's what Natalie's talking about squaring Mars. So, um, some part of me too, depending on the person or thing. The other part of this, if we just think about basic nervousness and anxieties, you
Mhm.
know, this kind of thing too, if you add some of that with what, depending on the Valentine's Day scenario,
Mhm.
maybe it's 50 years together. They're just used to chilling. There's no excitement per se or nervousness. Maybe it's the first Valentine's Day that people are doing together as a partners or whatever.
Right. Oh
Whatever the
yeah.
thing is, this is kind of this energy with with Aquarius there and Mercury and stuff, and the moon's squaring all that. The moon's gonna, moon's already square Pluto. There's with Mars, and does Mercury with Jupiter
Mhm.
here that just inflates it all. So not only is it the triple decker brownie thing that you said, but even the spending possibly involved here. And I said this to you earlier because if we go look to the ruler of Taurus here, it's Venus and Capricorn, which is typically probably tight with the coin.
Yes. Yeah.
So in a sense, even we do have this fixed square with moon and Jupiter, we do have the moon coming through towards the end that makes a trine with Venus, right?
Yes.
At the end of the trine. But initially, Mars, and this, as someone said in the chat earlier about the vibe of this week, what was it? Erratic and
Can
jittery or
be
whatever.
obtuse and jittery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that kind of is the predominant vibe,
Yes. Yep.
So yeah.
James said he ate a big old thing of strawberry flavored white chocolate, and Canada Dry had chocolate covered. You know what? Strawberries is definitely the theme. And, we wanted to put strawberries in our French toast. So strawberries is a lot. There's been a lot of solar flares making people sick, vertigo, dizziness. Yeah.
That's
Pressure on
my
the
life
head.
every day. I'm
Hmm.
seeing here Devon, who actually deals in the cooking industry, is like lots of rich butter.
Lots of rich butter.
And that says it.
I
Azure, I've been eating very well the last couple days. Yeah, I could see that.
food.
So
Coma.
anyway, speaking of the vibe of this week, I mean, even though officially we have another like interesting aspect in this chart that already kind of officially happened, but that's still hovering around. And since we ended up here, and I'll go green this time. We're talking about Venus being in Capricorn,
Yes. Yep.
but it's also is made another aspect this week, officially yesterday, but still in the play. Yes.
Hmm.
And Natalie, that is the
Venus.
Neptune.
Yes. Yep.
Go
The
ahead.
Venus sextile Neptune. And so I mean, we're going to get to the Mars Pluto because we know that that's lurking underneath there. But the Venus sextile Neptune is also, something that could be potentially nice for today, especially for couples who've been together for a long time and are comfortable with each other and don't mind that they ate like 10 pieces of chocolate cake. Um, with the Venus in Capricorn, we want to think of quantity or quality over quantity. So, we want to pick things that are more, and yes, Venus in Capricorn could be cheap with the purse strings, but it also could be somebody who doesn't mind buying luxury things as long as they're very high quality, and or having high quality things. So there is that energy there. And it's funny you bring that up, Nicholas, because I do think that moon, Jupiter, and Taurus could be like a spoiled princess on Valentine's Day type of a vibe, like me wanty diamonds, me wanty jewels, right? Like me wanty, right? And there could be somebody else in the partnership. If we're thinking about like a situation going on here, there could be somebody else who is Mars Pluto resentful of that and doesn't feel like spending all that money or isn't
Oh
into
yeah,
that.
I'm
You
sure.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally.
So
Yeah, yeah.
there may
So
be quite a spoiled princess type of a vibe today too for some people who have really high expectations of what they want on Valentine's Day, like with the moon, Jupiter, and Taurus. Hey, I want this diamond necklace. I want these earrings that I've been looking at. You didn't get them for me. I'm pissed off. So there may be some with the moon, Jupiter squaring the Mars, some of that energy going on. But I think the people that are really going to feel like better or safe about things are the ones that are probably embracing the Venus Neptune sextile, which encourages us all to open up a really nice old fashioned bottle of our favorite wine, our old porter that we've been saving for a long time, and sip on that as we smoke our
yeah,
cigars.
and it could be too, in a sense too, if we think about Venus and Capricorn, let's see if it's a longer relationship that has some foundation, right?
Hmm.
Certain things, and people were in a celebratory place, like, or whatever, that in a sense is celebrated here with Venus Neptune, that the the practicalness and the healthy boundaries of Venus in Capricorn and what it likes to set up with you, right? And what it's been
Yeah.
doing through the whole sign here. And this is right before we get into Aquarius here, but it's bringing that, and it's Saturn based in the end, right? So, but to
Yep.
have that openness, to kind of dissolve a little bit of the Saturn, that Neptune dissolves a little bit of that Saturn and brings some sort of just openness and oneness in that, but still has a nice little solid base to stand on. And one could say to honor and celebrate that if people do have that dynamic, right?
For sure. Yeah,
So
appreciate what you have because it's crazy out there, right?
you get
If it's
actually, and
good.
regardless of
Yep.
the overdoing with the moon and stuff, but we could also, let's say when the moon gets to 27, 28 degrees here tomorrow, right? That
Mhm.
the carryover is the more solidifying, the more back into reality type of thing, and the greatness of that, and the simple things are everything, right? That
Mm-hmm.
the simple practical things are what got us through, or
Yes.
got us through Valentine's Day,
Yes. Yeah.
or it sucked, but maybe tomorrow, next couple days, it works itself out, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
there's that kind of thing. And anyway, I was just thinking about, I just want to check in on chat. Energetic Principles of pal of ours is in here. Says, hey, you two, my partner spent the last few days cleaning out the house and paring down to get a few new quality pieces.
Yep.
So that's interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing. And those are the good things, and with Venus and Capricorn, I do think, practical gifts, like some people may be that person who wants, the fancy ring or whatever, or she wants, or he, it doesn't have to be a she, it could be anybody, but the person who really has high expectations for the gift. But then, that moon in Taurus, the ruler of that moon, you'd look at the Venus in Capricorn, since the moon's in Taurus. And what that person may end up getting is more of like a practical gift, like a new blender or a weed whacker,
yeah,
I
right.
don't I don't know.
Blender and a weed.
You know what I mean? It's
And there's
like
the person still wanting like the diamond.
yeah, yeah. It's like we
We're supposed
still
to go halvesies on this dinner, like.
we're
So
supposed to go
anyway,
have space on.
oh, that's funny. But actually, let's jump here, because for those, by the way, for those just joining here, I haven't here from the beginning. My name is Nicholas Polymonaco Sparkles of Gold, and this is
Natalie H. Yeah.
Natalie H. And I have known each other for a long time. She said the number. What did you say it was?
17 years, my
We're getting
friend.
into a nodal return here in about a year and a half,
Yep.
with that. But we've known each other for a long time. And Natalie not only is an astrologer, she's a great electional astrologer, horary astrologer, and knows her tarot. Has a history with this on her own channel. What's the name of your channel again? Just for
It's
people.
just Natalie H. Yeah.
Natalie H. But it's
Yep.
Power Moon Tarot, I think, too.
Yeah, my name on there is Power Moon Tarot.
Yeah.
That's the name of my business. But and I do have a playlist on my channel where I go through celebrity charts in detail, sometimes spending, up to 2 hours for the diehards who really want to get in there and look at stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm so happy to be here. And let me just say too that Nicholas has been an amazing friend to me and has really impacted my life and like the fate and the direction of my life in like some really powerful ways. So many
That's
loves.
very sweet, Yeah, you and I have known each other for a long time, and
Yeah.
many
Yep.
conversations about everything in astrology and over the years. So, yeah, no, but I
Yep.
just want to do a check-in with people who are just jumping in.
Yes. Yep.
And I brought up the next day, the February 15th. We're gonna talk about this and a couple things here, but then we are gonna jump into our celebrity chart, keeping
Yes.
it a
Yeah.
mystery here. You're probably gonna
Yep.
laugh when you see it, but
Oh
I
yeah.
laughed and I got scared.
Then I got scared.
I got scared. Like, what the fuck? So
Yeah.
let's another thing here. Should we talk about tomorrow? I mean, let me point it out. We don't have to talk about this is Thursday. This is 5:45 p.m. Pacific. I just want to point out something here. There is, and I don't like this tool. I'm switching straight to the arrow and I'll go pink. Here is Mercury. It didn't switch for me. Here is Mercury is 17 degrees. And if you noticed here right now, this whole week, that Mercury's been making Mercury's in Aquarius, which is an air sign. It's been making a sextile with the North Node and Chiron and Aries here. And this is in play. And this is part of the eclipse story for those who are into this, that we cannot, I don't want to let this go. But one thing that came into mind of like the type of fixedness in the clarity that Mercury in Aquarius can do with its mind. And with a Pluto stamp on there, is that I think here, one with their mind can make a commitment to, let's say, the North Node and Chiron and Aries here, like a commitment, let's say, a new way of merging the wounded into oneself, to incorporate that. And I think Mercury here verbalizes this, or computates it, right?
Yep.
Defines the new way of working with Chiron and Aries in the node here, and part of the nodal story about me first Aries, us Libra, right? This dynamic that happens, and which also brings into like how it connects here to the other air sign here by trine. So I just wanted to point that out. You have anything you want to say to that, Natalie?
Yeah, so I do think, I mean, that Rahu Chiron story
Right, let's
is
stop right
pretty
here. I don't mean to interrupt you. For
yeah.
those who don't know what Rahu is, tell them.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So, excuse me for saying Rahu, but Rahu is the north node, and Rahu is the name of the north node that's used in Indian astrology. So Rahu is the head of the snake, and Ketu is the body of the snake. And both Rahu and Ketu have very different aims of what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do. And, in our society, like in traditional Western society, it's like every man for themselves. Everybody has to, like individuality. And that isn't necessarily looked at as always a good thing in other cultures. And in other cultures, Rahu can be quite a troublemaker. And we'll talk more about Rahu and Ketu in the chart that we're looking at tonight because we are going to get deep into that. But I do think I love Mercury in Aquarius, and the chart that we're looking at tonight also has Mercury in Aquarius, but it is a very afflicted Mercury, and so we will be looking at that. But this Mercury is a nice Mercury. And I always love Mercury in Aquarius because I think it can be extremely brilliant and it can be extremely innovative, and like 10 steps ahead. And so I love that. And I think the connection with the North Node and Chiron, I completely agree with you on that. I think there may be some innovations that further things. I think there may be some people who are deciding, it's a hard thing when you have Rahu and Aries with Chiron and Aries, because I do think it is highlighting our wounds in society about like, I have to do everything on my own. I can't rely on anybody else. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah, there's a
And
tendency too from the modern New Agey sense of
yeah,
astrology to that you walk towards your north node and you leave your south. But when we take the more
yeah,
eastern view of Rahu Ketu, it's like we have the head of the dragon, it's all consuming. So if you take the
yes,
all consuming energy and you take
yes,
it into what you said in our society, we need to do it alone. We
alone.
we we need
Yeah,
to, that it can go over the top, just never stop. Right.
yeah, yeah. And everybody, I think, in society, a lot of people within the community, and Aquarius is a sign about, building community in the positive sense. A lot of people feeling like abandoned by their communities or like that the social contract is not valid for them. People feeling, and hopefully when we see a positive energy with Mercury and Aquarius with Rahu and Chiron, we can see some innovative ideas that help people connect, and also honor the South Node, which is in Libra now too, because we do need that community.
I think
Um,
what you said is very interesting because in this sense here, considering you talked about the North Node here in Chiron and down here South Node, but in a sense too of what the what Aquarius can do. And
mhm.
can it create a new town square? Can it somehow branch the aloneness that you brought, or no, you need something, you need to do it, you don't have to be alone, you could do it with somebody else. Or let's say even on one end someone's more weighted towards like they don't know how to do things alone
Alone,
and
yes,
do that. But
yep,
whatever the case is here is
yep,
like you can say that this Aquarius here just kind of helps on both ends, how to kind
yeah.
of bring it and let it flow. We got basically air trine and we got sextile with fire, so on and so forth.
I love that you mentioned the other side of it too, for people that aren't used to doing things alone and aren't used to being independent and are really trying to work up that courage to do things independently. I think that's so important. And with the South Node or K2 and Libra, we always have to keep that balance in mind. And so that's a really awesome
Yeah,
comment.
and it's interesting here because basically this is a Thursday chart, but when we get to Friday, Venus is going to go into 0 degree here. Should we just go there really quick?
Yeah.
Let's just do it because I want to go to the chart. We're going to talk
Yes,
about.
yes, we got to get to our charts. We're
So
about ready to go
basically,
there.
I won't go the exact time, but here now you could see we're on Friday. I'll say officially here on Friday Pacific time at 8:05 a.m. Pacific. Venus is going to go into Aquarius, and here's where we're talking about here, and we still have this in play with Mercury in the notes. I mean, it's going away, but I would say that in a sense now Venus starts to let loose here and how to participate and how to individuate, right? it was in Capricorn, going by steady guidelines and structures, and the rules, and there's tradition involved. Actually,
Yes.
there's a story probably carried through family and stuff like that. But then here comes Venus in Aquarius, still Saturn rule, but it's gonna break off pretty
Yeah.
much, and
Yep, I agree.
joins the party here.
Yes. And
So
actually, I think hopefully things will get better when Venus joins the Mars Pluto there, because we haven't talked too much about that Mars Pluto. We are very aware of it happening, like in our psyches and our dreams. Like we could go into it. I don't know how much we want to go into it, but
do it right
technically,
now. Fuck it. Do it
should
right
we do it
now.
right now? Should we
Let's
just
do
blow it?
it.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, so one thing to realize is that Mars and Pluto, as they stand right now, is they are in what's called a planetary war, which happens when two planets are within 1 degree of each other. And the concept of planetary war is that both planets end up getting damaged, and no one, in a war, both people end up kind of losing, or both planets end up losing. But how do we balance those energies when they're that close together? And some astrologers will say that the higher planet in the higher degrees wins the war, and the planet in the lower degrees wins the war. But so this Mars Pluto is actually quite challenging, and we won't spend a ton of time talking about it, but just to read some of the things that have happened within the last 48 hours. um, Basically, there was today there was a Super Bowl parade shooting. Yesterday there was a New York City shooting on a subway. A couple days ago there was at a mega church, there was a shooting.
Yep.
They came out today. Basically, they came out today and said, and the national intelligence community announces a serious national security threat.
Yeah, there was
So
Russia with space, with
with
strategic
space
stuff. Yeah,
and
that came out today.
yeah.
There's
Ye-
obviously the horrible bombing going off in the Middle East and Rafah and stuff that's going on with the incursion, this continuing thing. But let's stop here.
yeah,
I'd like to know, and I think some of the people here watching, what did you call this?
a planetary war.
Where
um
did you get that from? I'm curious in the
yeah.
past of learning, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So planetary war is something that exists in Indian astrology, and my background. I guess I didn't really say too much, but my background is in classical, traditional, Renaissance astrology. Studied with my teacher with that, but I also studied with my teacher in Indian astrology as well. So planetary war is a concept that comes from Indian astrology. It's complicated because astrologers don't agree on which one wins. I tend to think the one with the higher degree wins, but everybody, there's some complicated calculations. And actually, the way that they used to do it, like in the ancient days, is they would go, and this is where you could only see up to the 7 traditional planets. They would go and look up at the sky and see which one was winning the planetary war. So that's how they
Huh.
used to do it. And Venus traditionally, so when Venus joins the party with Mars and Pluto, Venus always wins the planetary war because she's the brightest object in our sky.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense to me. Now we're dealing
yeah,
with an outer body here that traditionally wasn't used because it's not
yep,
visual with
it's
Pluto.
not
So we kind
visual.
of entering different thoughts and times here of the decision making. But
Yep,
now that makes sense to me, like the brightness of Venus would overpower
yes,
Yeah, which is
yeah,
interesting because we get into next week when we have the Venus Mars conjunction in Aquarius at 6 degrees. And in a sense, so let's just say, for learning's sake, Natalie, Venus and Mars are together there. That planetary war, Venus would win from what
Venus will win.
would win.
Yep,
Yeah,
Venus will win because she's the brightest object in the sky.
got you.
And yeah, so I mean, when Venus comes in, hopefully that helps a little bit, because I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of the stream about the guy with the chainsaw I saw today on my walk. I mean, it's very Mars Pluto imagery. Not today, but the day before, I was on another walk and I walked past a window that was like ground level with me, and there was a pimple in the window, and it was like, "Urgh," and it was like gnashing its teeth at me and barking and scratching at the screen of the window. And I was like, WTF, get me out of here. And
Yeah.
so I think that that is a very Mars Pluto thing too. Like, and I was even telling Nicholas last night, I had a dream that I was in the middle of, um, you know, gun violence or a scene of that was playing out as I woke up from a dream last night. And so I do think that there is that kind of like a little bit of a in the atmosphere, that there is a little bit of jauntiness, there is a little bit of maybe scariness a little bit too. So anyway, I just wanted to say, like, if you're feeling that, if you're feeling a little like razor's edge out there, just, do your normal precautions.
Yeah, and then there's me, whereas like I'm I'm like saying harness it.
Yeah,
For me, it's like,
yeah.
can someone, depending on where they are with their own chart, with a fixed sign like Aquarius, if they have planets aspected, is can they, because this type of astrologer, I'm like, can you be Mars in Aquarius? And can you be Pluto and Mars, and how you do that? And for those who have maybe have experience, let's say with Pluto in their chart, the Pluto signatures, they probably have more of an inkling to how to do it, right?
Yes, for
Or
sure.
someone's more
Yeah.
Marsy, right? Like,
Mhm.
are they mature enough with their Mars and to understand Mars, Pluto, how to harness it? Because if somebody's going to harness this energy and do it, like I'm telling people are now, become Pluto Mars, and they're not used to doing it, that's where it could be also explosive too. Even with the best intentions, I think that it can just blow up on
Oh,
you.
yeah.
And I told people on the stream I did the other day that I think this right now, in the next couple of weeks, some of the things that happen with all these planets, that the sun, Mars, Venus, Mercury going through Pluto, and any other aspects we're going to have, like basically Jupiter and Uranus, that are going to square all these planets in the next couple of
Mhm.
weeks, right? Mercury does it on Friday too. Mercury squares Uranus in Aquarius. That it's kind of a clue on how to do Aquarius with a major Pluto signature and with a Pluto story that's happening for 20 years. Because basically, any time in the future when the moon and when Venus goes to Aquarius again and Mars does, you're going to do this.
Mhm.
You're going to go through the Pluto place. And so, this month is kind of, for some people, probably like training ground.
A little
uh,
test.
and so, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
test, but, you're going to crash and burn. You got to be careful how you harness Pluto
Right.
Mars. At the same time, for those who know or whatever, can you do it in a way where you're part of a story in the Aquarius part of your chart? For those who watch my channel, know that you made a promise.
Yep.
You made a promise, and you said it to me as I was portraying Hades on a live stream and being Hermes. At the same time, you made a promise. And so it's like, if you can understand the underworld story at Hades and make that promise, here's a chance to not just put the clear Mercury and Aquarius Pluto promise that you made in your mind, but in a sense with Mars here, to initiate it into form. Venus is going to come help here. But again, it's anything Pluto Mars. It's combustible. And,
Yeah.
it is, Mars in the end is a fighter. It's the war.
Yes.
And it's
Yep.
just, do you know how to use the tool? Do you know how to do it? So let's say you're going to harness it, go practice by yourself first before you go start throwing it out
For
in
sure.
the
Yeah.
universe. You know what I mean? So anyway,
Well, and lately I've been watching like a ton of Survivor, and I think, Mars Pluto is like very Survivor, because it's like
yes,
you have to play an intelligent social game along with get down in the mud and eat the mud and crawl through these challenges and, all the craziness of Survivor, right? But on the other hand, there's a whole social game that's going on too, and playing an intelligent social game is very Mars Pluto too, where maybe there's certain moves or strategic moves that you
there's
need to
some, yeah.
make, but not everybody needs to know what you're doing, and not everybody,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
I think Mars and Aquarius is strategic in a sense, but when Venus comes through, Venus I think is the best at strategy. And
Yeah.
if we're to combine the two, it gets ruthless here, and it might not seem like it for some people, but Venus can come across that way.
Yes.
Like it's like
Yeah.
they're not using the weapon, but they're a weapon nonetheless, right? Like
Mhm.
through the senses, through charm, and then you're going to have that combination. Now, we're not telling everybody to power and manipulate others here, because that's pretty much what Pluto likes to do, and then the
Yes.
obsession part of it. But if we were talking about in an empowerment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That
Empower.
check that. So we say that out loud, but listen, some people know I'm a Mars in Aquarius. This is a matter of fact. This particular chart, I'm having my Mars return right now in the next 48 hours.
Woohoo.
So with Pluto, I'm fucking
ready to roll,
Yeah.
pedal to the metal. Well, and
Don't
I
ask
was
me
really
what
thinking when I was looking at that Mars Pluto too, is like an Aquarius is like the geeks kind of rising up and like turning on the popular
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
Like, it could be like uprisings and people saying, we're not going to take this anymore, and we're fighting back. It's just, I guess I've been watching way too much Survivor, but you always have the people who are like playing on the bottom, and they're
Yeah.
usually like the social outcasts until they decide to come together and make a move against the powers that be. And I think that's very much, strategic social game, air sign type of thing.
Yeah, and I said it too earlier this week. Another thing too about what you said, to go off you, Natalie, is we got to remember Aquarius is a fixed sign, that they don't get. Usually, you're going to hear something about Taurus and Scorpio in for the long game, but you
Mm-hmm.
never hear Leo per se or the other fixed sign Aquarius, and it is strategic long game here.
Yep.
Too. So there's a lot of action with the inner body planets right now for the rest of this month, but
Mm-hmm.
bigger Pluto cycle, it's a
Yes.
long game,
It's a
and,
long game.
remember that.
The beautiful game of life,
Yeah,
everyone.
come on, let's jump into the chart
Let's
now.
jump in. Okay.
Let's do this. And
And
before we do this, let's jump into the chart. I just want to hit
yes.
hi people in chat, who are just making
Yes.
comments. I'm reading them while we're doing this. People are talking about workers rising up,
Solidarity.
unions.
Yep.
We got a huge. Just so you know, for those, some of you found me because I was on the astrology podcast with Austin Chris, and we brought up the union thing. Now, if you are paying attention, I'll say this quick. Sean Fain, who's the head of the UAW, and other people there, they're constantly on their social media, constantly this year, and they have a projected date in a couple of years from now where they want to have a mass general strike on May Day.
Ooh,
And they're like ready for 2 years. So they're building it right now. And
love
I
it.
even saw stuff in the last 48 hours that they were outputting,
Yep.
the language, everything. They're building something. And so they're long gaming it. You know what I mean?
Love it.
They're long gaming it. So, okay, are we going to do this celebrity chart?
Yes. Now, let me just quickly say, because I had a perfect segue. So
Yes.
on this transit chart, I planned this segue for days, you guys. So don't let me down. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we have on our transit chart. Oh, can you change it back to today,
To
Nicholas? Do you
today? Okay,
mind?
give me a second.
Yeah. Yep.
All
The
right.
transit today,
I'll do
where
it
our
right
moon's
now.
in Taurus. Yeah, right
Yeah.
now. Okay, so right now, do you guys see the moon in Taurus? Okay, squaring Pluto and Aquarius. Now, when we see and Mars, right? Now, when we see that, what comes to mind? A dangerous woman, right?
Yes,
Moon
it does.
square
It does.
Mars and Pluto, dangerous woman. Now, it was funny because I was walking yesterday and I stumbled upon a like a what you call it on the back of a truck, like one of the little banner things. I can't think of it right now, but like a
Mhm.
sticker on the back of a truck, and it said, "Women scare me." That's all it said. That's all it said. And white background, black letters, "Women scare me" on the back of a
Wounded.
truck.
Wounded.
Now, guys, I live in Texas, so everybody has a truck, but it's like women scare me. So now, when we look at today's Valentine's Day chart, we do have Moon square Mars, Moon square Pluto. So here we go. Let's
Okay, let
talk
me let
about
me let me bring
a
up the
woman that scares all of us, folks. We are going to get into it.
All right, so let me pull up this chart, and yeah, there we go.
Yes, everybody. So today's chart, as we mystery chart, is the chart of Mary Kay Letourneau. And maybe some of you have recently seen the movie on Netflix called May December, which has kind of reignited whole new interest in Mary Kay Letourneau's story. And she is for all of my true crime baddies out there who love true crime stories or interesting stories about women. Like this happened in the late 90s. And basically, she went to prison for having an affair with a student who was only 13 years old. And she was 34 years old at the time. And I think Nicholas is going to show you guys a picture of
Oh,
her.
let me get, because
Yeah,
I'm at
yeah.
up here. Okay, so give me a
Yep.
second. I forgot about this.
Yeah, the
Oh man,
picture.
okay. This chart. Anyway. All
Yep.
right. So
Yep. Here we
So
go.
this is the, by the way, this is the picture. I'll leave that chart up with you on the side there because we could do the windows here. It's a lot
Yep.
on the screen, but we could do it. So here's a picture of Mary Kay Letourneau. This one is like I don't know how it says Letourneau in an undated photograph during her teaching career, which is like the pose of someone in high school. It's like a high school pic, but she's a teacher. Anyway, I just want to point that out. But here she is. There's a picture there. She was born on the January 30th, 1962, and passed away the 6th of 2020. So there's a picture of her. So as Natalie set up, she basically
Had how would we
I'm not gonna
say
say
it?
had an affair. In her mind, she had an affair, but
Fair,
there's an
but
assault
in
here, and
yeah, she assaulted
legally
a
a second
child.
degree rape charge
Yes,
here. So
exactly, exactly.
so
Yep, yep.
anyway, it says here Letourneau was 34 and the child was 12, like when they first
Yes, that's
encountered each other.
true.
Okay,
Yep.
so he was a 6th grade student at elementary school. Okay, so just show you some pictures here. You're gonna see here, this is them older. This is him older here, right? But you could see some other pictures. This looked like a wedding picture, possibly
Yes, they
down the
ended up
line,
getting
which we're
married.
gonna get into.
Yeah, yep.
Here I saw here is like you could see on the left-hand side here, like young, young,
Young, very
young.
young. Vili Falau was the name of her, victim that yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Here is later, probably, I don't know here, but that's a interview with Barbara Walters.
Yes, yep.
So I just want you to, for some of you, I'm just putting some pictures up here, okay? And, Natalie's gonna talk about some dates and certain
Yes.
things here, but we're just showing you, okay? And then let's
Yes.
just get back to our perfect smile here.
Our perfect smile, right? And doesn't she look like a Stepford wife or like a debutante princess
It's
or something?
fucking
And I think that's why people were like just incredibly shocked when the story broke in the late 90s about her, and this child that she said was, the love of her life and that, they were going to be together forever. And there's so many things that ended up happening with it. And her story is fascinating. And so we're going to talk about her chart. And also, too, I saw a couple people in the comments mentioning that, yes, they did get married in 2005 and she did die in 2020 and they did separate a couple years before she passed away. Lisa is on the right train with us, the Delulu train. Yes. And yes, Nebula, she died July 6th of 2020. And so she did die of colon cancer at 58 years old. So she is deceased, but she does have two daughters that she had with Vili Falau. And I heard that he's had another baby with someone else and now he's with
yeah.
someone else. But they were together for many years. And we are going to talk about, she's given some very awkward interviews over the years. Like, if you guys have time, listen to some of the interviews because it's
I
like,
couldn't even
oh
make it through.
my
I couldn't even make it through. The
gosh.
one you sent me, Natalie, it just crushed me. I
Ugh.
watch a lot of crazy stuff. I just couldn't. Okay, so
Ugh.
let's
Yeah.
just
Let's
jump
get
in
into
here.
the Delulu.
I'll say stuff later about that.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about it. So I am going to go ahead and get into the chart. So I'm going to bring up my annotate button here as well. And one thing that I do when we start off with charts is I always like to point out the ascendant, the moon, and the sun. So the ascendant is at 10 degrees Leo. Okay. The moon is at 5 Sag and the sun is at 10 Aquarius. Okay. So look at all these planets in Aquarius, you guys. So this is a very apropos chart for right now as we are in Aquarius time. And she has a ton of fixed sign energy in her chart. And she has a ton of fire and air. So we see a lot of, Leo, we see a lot of Aquarius. She does have the moon in Sag. She doesn't really have any water in her chart besides the Neptune and Scorpio, which is a huge Delulu problem that we are going to be talking about. And so, yes, this is James says this is quite the Valentine's Day thing. Right? Yes. And Lisa says Neptune square the ascendant and her sun and Venus. Exactly, Lisa. We
Yep.
are on the Delulu train and we are going to be pulling that tug or choo choo train. So let me go ahead and start with her chart. So, first things first, we notice, like we said, there is a lack of water and air in her chart, which tells us that she can be very fiery, very impulsive, that she can be reckless at times, but she also has a lot of fixed sign energy in her chart, the Leo and the Aquarius, saying that once she gloms onto a goal, she doesn't let go of it. So this whole time that she was with Billy Falau, or that they were having this relationship, even when she went to prison, she was like, our love is eternal, our love is endless, like I'm never going to give up, I'm never going to let go. In the words of Rick Astley, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around. Rick Astley, or how you say that guy's name. I just
Rick
Rick,
Astley, yeah,
I just
Astley,
Rick
yeah.
rolled our
You just
audience.
rickrolled everybody. God, if you would have told me this beforehand, I would have actually pulled up the video, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a trademark, a
we Rick
check
rolled
mark.
everyone,
Yeah.
but check mark, but but yeah, definitely. And Kate says, I can see the childlike nature in her chart. Yes. And, so let's take a look and see. So she is very, she's very impulsive. She has Uranus rising there. She also has Rahu, or the North Node, in her first house in Leo. And then, of course, K2, or the South Node, is in Aquarius. And we'll talk quite a bit about that because we can already see the nodes of fate are in her first house and in her seventh house, which is herself and her relationships.
Mhm.
So she's got some interesting things already to sort out with herself and her relationships. And, some of the good things about being a Leo rising would be to be very dynamic, creative.
Wait a second, there's
Um,
good things?
yeah,
Oh,
let's talk about the good things.
sorry.
Because
Sorry.
here's the thing, too. Tonight, when we're talking about these aspects, we are going to get a little wiggity wiggity whack, okay? And we are going to be talking about the dark side, folks. And so, if you have certain aspects like this in your chart, just know that, for example, like there is, I'm sure some of you've already seen the moon square Pluto, like it's already there. So, and
Called a Hades Moon, according to Judy Hall. She wrote an amazing book on this, called the Hades Moon. I've talked about it on my streams. For anybody who's got major Pluto aspects to their moon, this also can be a generational thing, especially with women in the family. That's all I'll say. Just a little book reference.
absolutely, I love it, and I love that book, and I love the Hades moon,
Yeah,
and it hits home too because I do have a Hades moon in my own chart as well. I have moon square Pluto, so if you have moon square Pluto in your chart, like, and we're starting to get real deep with it, don't worry, like we're right here with you. Some of these aspects we have in our own chart too, but it's in how you use it and how you deal with
totally.
it,
I'm
handle
completely
it.
delusional. Complete.
Delulu, baby,
Oh
all the
yeah,
way,
sorry, Delulu.
1000%. Let's go, right? Uh, but so, so here we have, let's talk. So with Leo rising, obviously Leo risings can be very dynamic, creative, positive, enthusiastic, social. But on the negative side, they can also be selfish, ego oriented, self opinionated, me first, self centered, and a tendency to burn those that they get close to.
Hmm.
Also, another trait about Leo is they often don't like others giving them boundaries or telling them what to do. And it's not to say that they're boundaryless, it's just they want to be the ones to kind of say what they're doing rather than have that imposed upon them. And that's, part of them being ruled by the sun and being the center of things. And we know that there are those two different aspects of Leo. And one thing we want to remember about Mary Kay Letourneau is like she was a very well loved teacher, and her students really did like her. And one question maybe like for the audience could be if you want to type it in there, what do you see in her chart that indicates that she might be a good teacher or that she would be a teacher?
Yeah, we'll wait for those to come in. I want to say something, but I'm gonna wait till they come in and say something. But
Oh, okay.
yep, yep.
Okay.
I
All
like.
right.
It's interesting what you said though, because I sometimes too, what a throne means to a Leo. You know,
Yeah.
there's times to be on your throne, but I think when you say they don't like someone telling them what to do, I think can be when it's weighted too much on the throne, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they don't really, that's not something that they like, is people kind of dictating to them their life or what they should be doing. And yeah, so yeah, and Nebula, very nice. Thank you, Nebula. Fifth house moon in Sag, teacher to children. Yes, I think that, and look at that fifth house moon in Sagittarius that is trining the ascendant in Leo. So when you're talking about like somebody who's like fun or creative or nice, or is like creative, interesting, fun, doing
Mhm.
fun things with the kids, like very much a Leo rising. Creative, fun, interesting, fifth house Sagittarius moon trying the ascendant. People, she's a well liked teacher. Now, here's another thing. Let's look here too. Let's also look at the ruler of the 10th house, which is the 10th house ruler is going to be Venus, as Taurus is on the cusp of the 10th right there. And then can you guys see Venus in Aquarius, the ruler of her 10th house of career in the 7th house there? In a conjunction with Jupiter. Okay. So Jupiter is also a teacher. Jupiter
Mhm.
represents someone who is teaching. And so she was very well loved and very popular. And we think of Venus, we can think of, popularity. We can think about, people really digging her. And can you guys also check out the Sun Venus conjunction right there, too? Um, because the Sun Venus conjunction is, and people always talked about her. You guys saw her picture where she was smiling and she's blonde and thin and cute and pretty. And everybody was always, oh, she's popular. She was a cheerleader. Oftentimes, when we see like Sun Venus conjunctions, you'll see people who are very popular, are very nice looking. Even in the charts of men, sometimes you'll see men with Sun Venus, and they're very attractive individuals. And so she was always, like a very, ooh, Canada Dry, very, you have a Sun Venus conjunction in Leo. Yeah. So
You know what's
popular.
interesting too,
Mhm.
because of what you said about being seen and popular and stuff, but also let's say if we were to take some old rules into account, depending on the speed of the planet here. But a lot of times, there's a major Venus Sun conjunction here, and the sun is, is pretty much blaring out the light of Venus though at the same time. And so
Yes.
I think there's this thing that could happen of wanting, if you're elevated, seems, but at the same time, especially in this chart, because it's the seventh house, right?
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
see me, along with the Leo
Mhm.
rising, but see me. But there's some weird dynamic that's off, let's say, because of Sun overpowering Venus. Just the way I look at it, where it's, you can't see Venus in the sky because the sun's light is pretty much burning it
Yes.
off. So yeah.
1000%. Yeah, that is true. Venus is combust the sun.
Mhm.
And, I think because the sun is the ruler of the ascendant, it's really important. And we always want to look at the ruler of our ascendant and what it's doing in our chart. And I think that her needs are always like overshadowing the needs of her partner. Or her needs are more important in the relationship. The sun representing me as a Leo rising, like my needs in the partnership are overshadowing the needs of the relationship as a whole. So that could be, an interpretation of that too. And we'll see that multiple times as we look through her chart. And so those are some interesting things on, why she is, well loved by her students. She won awards. She was involved in lots of, community events. She's got all this Aquarius energy. People wanted to be in her class. Students thought that when they found out it was Mary Kay Letourneau who was, sleeping with her student, people were completely shocked because it's like, oh my gosh, she's like perfect, like Miss Perfect.
Yeah, and I think interesting thing too. Let's say from if people are viewing her a certain way, that in one way, I mean, we have a Venus Neptune person here, right?
Yes. Yep.
Squaring here, and this goes back
Yep.
to what we are talking about at the beginning of the live stream. And also people might catch that too, like catch the illusion, or if
Mm-hmm.
it's come across a certain way, the sweetness and Neptune, what it's doing to Venus and the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that too. Doesn't wonder what one is portraying out, but then what people are catching too, it's a sweet lie.
Yep.
one way to say it, right? It comes
Yep.
across a certain way, like yum, that tastes good, but it's not really what it is, kind of thing. It
Yeah.
could be that way. It also could be highly imaginative, right? And
Yes.
off the square depending on what's going on. So
Yes. Yep. And the other sign that I would say too that she has teacher energy or is kind of a teacher is or was a teacher at a point was the Mercury Jupiter conjunction. Now we see here, I need to change it to a line and not an arrow. We do see the Mercury Jupiter conjunction right here. Let me It's K2 is right in the middle of them, but they're within orb of each other. So we've got Mercury, K2, Jupiter. That's a very complicated seventh house. And as we know, her whole life has been about her relationships and her relationships coming underneath the microscope. And her relationships actually overshadowed everything else that she even did in her life. But speaking of somebody who has, kind of teacher energy or professory type of energy, that's very Mercury, Jupiter. Now, the reason that's important is because her father was also a professor and her father taught philosophy. Her father was also a politician for Mary Kay Letourneau. And her father, at one point, actually ran for president, lost, but he got over 1 million votes. But what ended up ending his very traditional right wing, ultra conservative career was the fact that he had an affair with a student. Now, the student wasn't a 13-year-old student, it was an adult student, but he ended up fathering 2 children out of wedlock. And people just lambasted him for that because he was this ultra right conservative guy. And so when we look at Mary Kay Letourneau's chart, always keep the story of her father in the back of your mind. And oftentimes, like in doing readings with clients, I have noticed sometimes that a lot of my Leo rising clients, especially my female Leo rising clients, have big stories with their fathers.
hmm.
As we know, the sun, is the ruler of the Leo ascendant, and the sun in the chart represents the father. And when we look at her chart, we can see that that sun is in a conjunction with Saturn. And exactly, SG, the apple does not fall far from the tree at all. Um, so the ultra conservative father, who's extremely traditional, now her father was so ultra conservative that they actually kicked him out of a far right group because he was too far right.
Yeah, it says here that her father was a member of the right wing John Birch Society. It's like one of the oldest ones on the more righter wing thing. But
Yeah.
that he ran for a seat in the legislature, held positions in California state senator, congressman. He ran for president under the American Independent Party in 1972. And I'll stop there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So she grew up idolizing her father, hero worshiping her father, right? Like, my father's the best. He ran for president. Oh my gosh. And the fact that he humiliated their family and had a child out of wedlock, 2 children out of wedlock. And when he did that, they lost all of their financial security. He had to drop out of what he was doing. There was a lot of stuff that happened after he kind of did that betrayal to the family. And so there is that going on. Now, if we think about the reason I'm bringing up her parents is to keep a mindset of, where she's kind of coming from. Now, her mother was also an ultra right person who opposed the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment for women. And her mother was very cold and very rejecting and showed no warmth at all. Now, when we look at the mother in the chart, we can look at the moon, look at that moon square Pluto. The moon is also squaring Chiron. So huge mother wounds there for Mary Kay Letourneau, and having a very cold, rejecting mother who didn't really pay attention to her unless they were in front of a camera. And so those are some of the things that we can already see popping out in her chart. But let's go ahead, and I want to draw our attention to this Uranus in Leo on her in her first house. Okay, do you guys see that Uranus at 29 degrees Leo retrograde right there? So what that says is, when it comes to Mary Kay Letourneau, because in interviews talk about how the laws and the rules are very important for people to follow, right? Sun, Saturn, like the laws and the rules are very important. But when it comes to me, I'm special. I don't have to follow the rules. I can do whatever I want. Okay. Uranus and Leo in the first house. I do whatever the hell I want because I'm special and I don't have to do what everyone else is doing, but I'm going to tell you what to do. Exactly. Exactly, SG. Everybody except for her.
Yeah, and you also throw in her Venus in Aquarius. Well, I'll say that later. Let's keep
Okay.
going. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting
No, no,
because I'm
no.
like,
It's okay. No,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay
I'll
because
say
we
that
got a
later.
lot here too. And feel free, you guys, like
Yeah.
on the stream, chat, jump in, say things you're noticing about the chart, whatever you feel like saying. So we've got that energy there going on. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the Rahu rising. Okay. So Rahu, or the North Node, I'm going to circle it right there, is at 18 degrees Leo. Now, when we talk about the North Node can oftentimes be filled with unfulfilled desires, meaning there's so many unfulfilled desires that the person is reaching for or trying to go for. They're chasing illusions. They're chasing, they want to consume everything. They want what they want, particularly in the sign of Leo, which we know is more geared. And again, like if you have tons of Leo in your chart, please don't take offense. But in her chart, it's like, I want what I want and I want it now. Even the court telling her, you can't see Billy anymore. If you do, we're going to lock you up even longer, didn't deter her. Like she kept going after what she wanted. And so that's very interesting. Now, when we see the Rahu and Leo there, keep in mind that K2 over here is in Aquarius. So Rahu in Leo is, if we look at what is the ruler of Leo, that is the sun. If we look at K2 in Aquarius, what is the ruler of Aquarius? That is Saturn. So her nodal points in her chart point back to this Sun Saturn conjunction, which is extremely important because the Sun rules her first house of relationships. It also rules her seventh house of partnerships, which says she is working out heavy karmic fate and heavy karmic shit in her partnerships. And it does have to do with her father, as we do have the sun here. So that is, and let me just say, like when I first looked at, yeah, and I agree with you, Canada Dry, like North Node in the first house, there is a focus on the self. And, with K2 in the seventh house, we can look at a person who may have some dissatisfying personal relationships or isn't happy in their marriages or personal relationships. Um, anyway, Nicholas is about to point out that deranged Disney princess.
I've gone out with
Yeah,
girls like that, man.
the deranged Disney princess.
Cheerleaders and shit, and I don't even get into it.
We
Like,
don't need
I
to
got a
get
bad
it.
Valentine's memory coming into my mind right now. So what the hell's going?
What
Just
the
go to the
hell
next
is
thing. I
going
get that out of my head. Get that out of
on?
the head. I don't know what role I was trying to play. I was playing a role I wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be playing. That's not me. But then
Yes.
I have a tendency to bring that to my look at me as the alternative person. It's don't get me started. Just keep going.
No. Get us
So
started. Get
I
us in
think it's
there.
interesting. I think it's interesting here, too, because sometimes when we see a Sun Saturn, they'll have the way they will look at themselves and
Mhm.
break themselves down, or uh, be Saturn towards themselves,
Yes.
and but here being its natural ruler and stuff, but there is some sort of dynamic here. But I think it just, for some reason, I think after what you said, with the energy of the North Node
Yep.
and Uranus there,
Yep.
and with something else I'm going to mention here with Venus, that I just think it just overrides that. But I think probably at certain points at this person's life, or whether they showed it or not, they probably were their worst inner critic at some point. Like they went through that, and it was probably reflective too of like home and parental with rules, and
Yes.
very, whether it was religious
Yes.
or whatever. But there was sort of some sort of possible clampdown in one way of them being themselves or freeing themselves, but there's some sort of always Saturnian clampdown. It's just
Yes.
how it happens. And I'm just saying hearsay, what sometimes I see Sun Saturn
Well,
configurations, and
no, you hit it on the nail on the head because actually, with this, she did grow up in a very repressive religious environment. And, what's interesting is a lot of people, associate Aquarius with a very progressive, liberal sign, but there is a part of Aquarius. Because it is a sign of fixed air, but depends on what you're fixated on, right? And there
yeah.
can be some extreme fundamentalists that have Aquarius energy, that are not budging. And, it's interesting because her parents essentially trapped her in a marriage, ruler of the first house in the seventh house with Saturn that rules the seventh house. Her parents essentially trapped her in a marriage with her first husband because she got pregnant by him and they made her marry him, even though she didn't want to marry him.
Okay, so let me say this.
Yeah.
While attending Arizona State University, Mary Schmitz met and married fellow student Steve Letourneau, and she conceived the first of 4 children with him. She later said that she was not in love with Steve, but she married him after being urged to do so by her parents.
1000.
Um,
Yep.
they moved to Anchorage, Alaska. Steve found work as a baggage handler. After a year in Alaska, he transferred to Seattle, where Mary gave birth to their second child. In '89, she graduated from Seattle U with a teaching degree. She began teaching second grade in a suburb of Seattle. The marriage suffered. They had financial problems. Both parties engaged in extramarital affairs. This is what the
Yep.
Wikipedia says.
Yep.
And her attorney and former neighbor
Yes.
said that she was, quote unquote, emotionally and physically abused by her husband during the marriage, and twice went to the hospital for treatment. And the police were called, although no charges were filed.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll stop there just to give a little bit of thing.
A background on her marriage that because she had 4 children before she met Villy, her student. She had 4 children with her husband. And one thing that I think is interesting as well is Mary was raised in this very strict, authoritative environment. But she went to Arizona State to party, basically. And we see that moon in
All
Sagittarius.
cheerleaders, like all cheerleader
They
Christian.
want to party, baby. She was a Catholic schoolgirl. I'm
Yeah,
here to party. Where's the
sorry, I
party,
can go off
right?
on that, but
I'm just
my
kidding.
life is appearing in front of me. Some of these girls I've seen in my life. Anyway,
I know,
golf
right?
courses and
Catholic. I went to Catholic high school, so I'm like, "Rrr." But yeah, she liked to party. She wanted to party, and it's like, yeah, on one level, like the beliefs of her parents, like seeped into her. With the Sun Saturn there, it's like she couldn't avoid like both of her parents extremely fundamentalist, and she even had these attitudes kind of like later in life as well in a different way. But the moon in Sagittarius in the 5th house, like I'm trying to party,
this goes
um
back to some of the things you were saying about Aquarius. I mean, from my experience as a practitioner with clients, and having some Aquarius in my chart, there is this kind of interesting story that happens because it's still Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn, Saturn rules Aquarius. It just happens differently. But there is this thing that I think Aquarius people have Aquarius in their chart or Aquarius sometimes go through, as in like they need to branch off and do their thing, but they're still into a fixed way of doing things. And sometimes they struggle. They'll play the normal line and walk the normal
Mole
line,
line.
the
Yep.
Saturnian line, but at some point they break off on that, but they can't go back. It can't help but go back sometimes. And I think sometimes they play a game, whether they know it or not, of what's traditional and what's different and new, and they
No.
go back and forth. Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I just want to say that because we have somebody here with Venus in Aquarius too, and somebody with Mars in Capricorn. Again, Saturn playing out in 2 different ways here, possibly.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so anyway,
Yeah. No,
uh,
1000%. I agree with that. And I think, she does have Venus in Aquarius. So when she talks about relationships, she's like, well, I don't think relationships should, have to do with age or race or, gender or whatever. Like she talks about stuff like that, which I mean, yay, right?
total
Like,
Venus and Aquarius talk.
right. Yeah. Like that's awesome. Like, and in a normal situation when it's not a 13-year-old and you're not a 34-year-old, like that's amazing. But when we say like we don't want to discriminate based on gender, age, and things like that, we're not talking about 12-year-old boys and adult women. So, that's like
Yeah.
a little crazy. And you can see she's giving that whole speech about, relationships. And I don't base my love on, race or age or things like that. But she's talking about it in this very frou-frou, um,
Idealistic Neptune.
idealistic way. And you see
Yep.
that square to the Neptune there in Scorpio with her obsessive fantasies and what she wants out of it. And it's like this very Delulu, to quote our quote earlier, the Delulu people, where are we at? Delulu people, raise our hands. But, she's
Pinky
talking.
Delulu here in her eyes. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, it's
anyway.
Delulu. So there is that. Now, so
You
we've
made me
got.
watch it, but just for people watching, she like Natalie and I talking, we're gonna do this chart. There's some other charts we could have done. We're like, let's do this one because of the Aquarius stuff. So I'm like, okay. It's funny because me originally spending a lot of time in Seattle, I know the whole Mary Kay Letourneau story in one way, but to go back
Mhm.
and look to watch this major interview, was an Australian one TV
Yeah.
thing did, and then I couldn't make it through. I couldn't. It was so hard. Then I was started watching some of that May December thing. Oh, it was just like it was like I need to go take a shower,
Yeah.
But the interviews with her that I've watched, she's out there.
She is
Like, but you could tell though, not only is she out there, but her brain is really sharp. And you combine those two types of things, that's do I want to say that she was a manipulator? Yes. I gotta say
Yeah.
it. I mean, you
Yep.
gotta say it, but
Yes.
she was out there. She probably, believed in the things, but like her mind was sharp at the same time. And so it's just,
Well,
and
here's the
yeah,
thing. We definitely need to talk about this piece of it, about the Mercury, because that Mercury, okay, so in her chart, keep in mind, she has Mercury retrograde at 21 degrees Aquarius. So that is a retrograde Mercury. It is in a conjunction with K2, which means that that Mercury is afflicted. Now, Mary Kay Letourneau, she speaks like a baby sometimes, in like a very babyish kind of a voice, or like a very soft baby voice. But then when she starts, because the interesting thing about Mary Kay Letourneau is when, after she got out of prison, she was allowed, for some reason, I don't know why, but she was allowed to go work as a paralegal. And, becoming a paralegal, I think, was a way for her to understand her case from a legal perspective. So in interviews, she starts trotting out all these facts, but her logic is fundamentally flawed. And that's the K2 portion of it. And the Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, like, she is fronting in these interviews like she's this amazing legal mind of our century. But at the same time, she also asserts that she didn't know that hooking up with a 13-year-old was against the law. And so you can't both be a 21st century, legal eagle genius and also believe that, hooking up with a 13-year-old as an adult isn't illegal. And what's really funny is during her interview is she goes back and forth in between the the legal reasons and the moral reasons. And when the interviewer is trying to hit her on either side, she scrambles to the other side of it.
yeah,
And that maneuvering that you're seeing, she that she's doing is actually pretty genius in the way that she's dodging the answer, the way that she's maneuvering around. And I think it's very Mercury Jupiter, in the sense that Mercury Jupiter conjunctions can be amazing for politicians, teachers, philosophy majors, law, etc. Like Mercury Jupiter can be very strong for that. But when you throw K2 in the middle of it and have it all squaring Neptune, it is like airy. It's like she's a fairy princess just garbling things out of her mouth. And I mean, the interview was so hard to get through because
oh, it was
it's like,
pained me. It pained me. It was crushing me. And as a matter of fact, he's
yeah,
in the interview, because that interview that you sent me,
yeah,
maybe while we're talking, I'll go find the link and put on chat for people
yeah,
to just,
yeah,
if you dare to go there. But anyway, I like what you're saying here. But
yes.
when we were talking, which chart was it you were talking about, the conviction date? What was it?
Oh yeah, the date where she gets a really, really lax sentence and Jupiter's on her natal Jupiter.
Yeah, because she made a deal
Yes.
that
Yep.
she was supposed to get 6.5, 7.5 years, and then she made a deal to do something because she had a kid in his kid
Yes.
in
Yeah.
prison, and then um but promised for change of sentence that she would never they would have no contact. So she
Right.
served out the smaller sentence, and then
Sentence.
like she came out, she came out of prison, and it was within days or whatever. They were meeting each other.
Yep. They were back.
And eventually we're kind of jumping around here. So like
Yes.
where should we go
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
You're
No,
like,
no, it's okay. We'll pull it in.
yeah.
So let me actually, because I do have a lot of things to say about that Mercury K2 conjunction, because I think it's a big problem in her chart in the sense that she does have some legal information. So when you hear her talk, like she's talking about strict liability in the law, and she's hitting the interviewer with these comments about strict liability in the law. But at the same time, her arguments are completely ridiculous. Now, keep in mind, K2 is the part of the snake that doesn't have a head. And K2 in our chart, wherever K2 is in our chart, it
So
shows
just
us.
no, I don't mean to interrupt you. For
Yeah.
those, let's just point it out one
Oh,
more time.
yeah.
When she's
Yeah.
saying, and now it's saying K2, she's saying
Yes.
South Node.
Yep.
And when she's saying Rahu, it's North
North
Node,
node.
just for those who are watching who don't know, okay?
Yes. Yep.
Sorry.
So K2 is the south node. And wherever we have K2 in our natal chart is where we tend to reject outer realities. So it's like, okay, it's K2 is a little like Neptune. And when you see, the thing about Mercury is dual natured, and it can take on, as a planet, it takes on the energy of the
Yeah.
planets that it's with. Right.
Mhm.
So in that sense, we have an afflicted Mercury with K2 squaring Neptune. And of course, we have Jupiter in there. So she is talking about, she sounds like she's talking about the law. She's educated, strict liability, all these things she's bringing up. But her justification to the interviewer is like, well, the thing is that 13-year-old, she starts arguing about the definition of a child, like a 13-year-old hit puberty, so they're technically not a child, so it should be fine that she hooked up with, or assaulted a 13-year-old. And then the other thing she says is she says all 13-year-olds are trying to pursue and sleep with other 13-year-olds, or not all of them, but some of them are trying to pursue 13-year-olds and sleep with other 13 years old. So it should be totally fine what she did. Legally,
Because
she could
part of
be.
me part of me's still 13 years old.
Right? Which which
Yeah,
which is
anyway,
an illegal argument. That's not illegal.
yeah.
That's not in a,
And I've seen
you know
some of
what
the
I
other
mean?
things talked about this because from other cultures, even bringing in stuff in the Philippines, saying back in the day that people were legally could wed or something like 12 or 13. It's weird.
She
Anyway, not
is.
to get
You're
soundtrack,
right. No, she
but I
talks
like,
about that.
yeah, I like what you said about this South Node here thing because what was the adjectives you gave to the South Node and what it can do? Because I have
So,
my
yeah, so the south node in the chart is where we tend to reject outer realities.
Okay, reject
Yes.
outer realities because
Yes.
the other ways to could talk about this to go into this is like, sometimes we look at South Nodes like what we already know and have done a zillion times, and it's habitual. It's like you're just there, stuck, can't get out of it. You add that with the Mercury retrograde and the Jupiter, it's like quadruple down on this, betting, not betting on it, but like,
Yeah.
how it can just go there and she can't help it. And not only that, if you go to the ruler of all this with the Saturn and Aquarius here, and in a fixed sign, it's not gonna
She's
budge.
never changed her
You're not gonna
story.
change shit.
Never changed shit, never changed
You
her
get thrown in
story.
jail. You're not gonna,
Yep.
let me
Doesn't
stop here and say
care.
I want to say what's up to Kelly K in our chat with the super chat.
Thank
Uh,
you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly K. Pair character bowing down saying thank you. Oh, that's very cool. Thank you,
Mwah.
Kelly K.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, thanks for interrupting. It's a good time because I feel like I needed to just I gotta get
Woof.
Mary
Let's get.
K's
Ew,
spirit.
we're
I
just
should
filled
have
with
burned
the
some stuff in
energy.
this
We just
room.
feel
I conjuring
disgusting.
this shit.
We're all gonna have
So,
to have cold showers when we're done with this.
so but anyway, so you're talking about Mercury here,
Yes.
so on and so forth. So
And Canada Dry is asking us to explain, can you explain rejecting outer realities? Yeah. So in this situation, like, so think about the South Node or K2. For example, the North Node, I have to contrast them to kind of explain this. The North Node is going after what it wants. It has unfulfilled desires from past lifetimes. And so there's this hunger and this need to fulfill that. Whereas the South Node is, so the North Node is acquisitive and the South Node is like pushing away. And a lot of times, especially in Indian astrology, K2 was associated with like beggars who would go to temples and like priests and people who were very humble and people who like lived off nothing and people who were more into the spiritual side of life instead of the materialistic acquisitive side of life. And so, the acquisitive side of life is the, active side of life, and the side of life where we kind of push away certain things. And the thing about K2 is, or the South Node, is that K2's energy is similar to Mars in the way that it can be militant about cutting
Right.
attachments from the past and letting go. And so, one thing, for instance, to keep in mind, like even in my own story, I'm in my K2 Dasha right now, which started in 2018. And as a result, in the middle of my K2 Dasha, I quit my corporate job and took a huge pay cut and started doing tarot and astrology full time. And it was super scary, but I was rejecting the outer reality of I don't want to be in this, capitalistic, whatever money hungry system anymore. I want to go and do something spiritual. And that's a very K2 thing. Like I am rejecting that. And it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing to reject outer realities. Like Neptune, a lot of times we always think of Neptune rejecting reality too, like, but more maybe in a negative sense. But with K2, rejecting outer realities isn't always a bad thing. Like sometimes you completely remove your own security net. I mean, it wasn't maybe the smartest thing to do,
Yeah,
but
yeah, and just
you
to
know,
say something here that
yeah,
remember from us, the way I practice, that the nodes
yeah,
are intertwined. So
yes,
Rahu, Ketu are intertwined. So just think simply as Rahu's the head of a dragon
yep.
coming at you, and then you have the purging part on the tail. So there's
Yes.
the
Yep.
purging part, but also like the words that you used again. Say it again, Natalie. The
Oh, rejecting outer
Reject
realities? Yeah.
realities, and so
Yep.
you can kinda get that, but sometimes they're going hand in hand a lot of times. I wanna stop here and say, not that we can do this right now, but someone's asking what K2 Dasha is. Is it like a
Oh, I'm
profession?
sorry. I shouldn't have, yeah, I
Yeah, and
probably
so
went a
keep it
little
real simple,
too.
Natalie,
Yeah,
just if you
yeah.
wanna answer that
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
No, yeah, and K2 Dasha is something, in the Vedic system. If you guys have never had your chart done by a Vedic astrologer, it's really interesting, and they have, in Western astrology, we have zodiacal releasing. In Vedic astrology, we have the Dasha system. They're very similar.
Kinda
But
periods of time
yeah,
type of thing. Fadari is
dividing.
another version of this and other things. There's different
Yeah.
kinds of techniques to do
Yeah.
with this. So,
Yep. So sorry if
Canada
I went a little too deep there.
it's okay. Canada
Yeah.
Dry, thank you to you,
Yes.
Natalie, like, kinda
Oh.
throwing hearts at you,
Oh, thank you. Thanks,
so
Canada Dry. I
thank
appreciate
you for
that.
that.
Yeah.
Have fun.
So let's go ahead and Dasha, Vivi 17 Dasha is like period. I'd have to look at, I have my little word dictionary. I'd have to find it, but it's like period. Basically, it's like a period of your life. So and it's a Vedic word, but anyway, so
You're gonna go down that rabbit hole, you're gonna see.
yeah, yeah. If you go down the
You
rabbit
guys hit
hole,
me up privately. I know a couple good books on this stuff, whatever, but just
yes.
wanna just stay on track here because
Oh, Isha, do you feel like Western and Vedic complement each other or quite different? Not to keep us off track. Oh, thank you for the question, Isha. And Dasha is Dasha, Vivi 17. And Isha, it's interesting because Vedic astrology shifts your chart back 23 degrees. And so your planets are going to be in different positions. I mean, since I've studied both, I'm primarily a Western astrologer, but since I've studied both, I incorporate elements of that into my chart analysis. But I feel here's the thing: both systems are incredibly challenging to learn, and me stupidly was trying to learn them both at the same time. So, but
Sounds like a Mercury and Gemini thing.
yeah, exactly. Nicholas and I both have Mercury and Gemini. So I do feel that they can complement each other, Isha, and I feel like we have much to learn from the Indian astrologers. And
I
the problem is they have an unbroken tradition, and our tradition's a little more broken. But
It's just a different thing. Think of the
yeah,
difference. Not gonna say one's better with the
right.
other, but just because we have to keep going, the thing I
Yes.
will say, if you're gonna do any kind of jumping into that world, start with Rahu Ketu, because I think it's actually very easy to take in and understand
Yes.
from the, and it's really good to know. Austin Coppock he's been studying Veda for a long time. If you notice on the podcast, him teaching, he's talking about Rahu Ketu all the time because he's bringing in more of the Eastern and the Indian way of looking at it, which I can really help get rid of, which I don't feel particularly not happy about it, into the more modern astrology, or partly parts of the evolutionary astrology way of looking at nodes. I'm not trying to diss on it because I know that's some of those systems. I
Yeah.
studied that. But if you want to get a more mythic, a more not so completely polarized view, or one's better than the other, one
Right.
isn't better than the other. They're linked. And so when you're looking at more the Indian way of it, they have the great ways of understanding that. And it doesn't fit the more Western American mind, and it opens your brain up to be looking at things that way. That's all I will say. Let's keep going.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure. No, I love
yeah,
it. Thank you for all your
yeah,
guys' interest
yeah.
in that. I really do appreciate that. And I feel I really didn't understand Rahu Ketu too well until I, studied. Then I was like, okay, I feel like I get it more, but I'm still learning all the time because they're shadowy planets and they're very elusive. That's the thing in reality and in studying as well. But so K2, yes. So Mercury with K2, I think K2 is interesting because K2 in the seventh house can sometimes indicate dissatisfaction in relationships. It can also, with Mercury there too, we know Mercury takes on the nature of whatever planets it is in a conjunction with, and it's afflicting that Mercury, and is becoming kind of a deceptive energy that when she's trying to change, she's going back and forth on all these different and none of it makes any logical sense as we talked about. So let's get back into I want to show you guys, let's find some fun stuff. Okay, let's do some fun stuff. So my first thing is, so one thing, Mary Kay Letourneau was diagnosed with mental health issues. She was, diagnosed as bipolar during her trial. And her psychologist that was speaking up for her said that she had problems with impulse control, and she also had problems with, depressive episodes. But can you guys who are with us in the chat, do you see anything in the chart that indicates problems with impulse control in relationships, or just problems with impulse control in general, or depressive issues in general? Let's see what people think.
And while people are doing that, somebody mentioned in the chat that her Wake for Me says, I think I'm a little behind on the feed, but I do want to point out that her North Node is conjunct her father's sun in Leo at the exact degree. And I think so too. I'm going to,
Oh, you're pulling up the father's
I
chart?
might pull up the chart here. Let me do
Oh,
it
I
real
didn't
quick.
even pull up that. That's awesome. Wake
But,
me
but,
from this.
but
Thank
you got some
you.
answers coming in. So
Yes. And, wake me from this. I actually wrote down that Mary Kay Letourneau through Rahu and Leo in her first house is acting out her father's story. So wake me from this. You are 1,000% like spot on with that. Okay, so let's look at the problems with impulse control. So first of all, did you check out the Mars at 28 degrees Capricorn and a quincunx to Uranus? Okay, so this Mars in Capricorn, quincunx to Uranus in Leo in the first house says I build things up, or things take a lot of effort building things up and working towards things, and then I completely just destroy them or cut them out or change or do something totally different, and it rocks my world, and it also rocks the world of my family, because the fourth house is also implicated here, as Mars is the ruler of the fourth house of family. And so, her tendency with Mars quincunx Uranus to make some really impulsive decisions, and do them quickly without thinking. So we see there's an issue with impulse control there. And in astrology, we're always looking for multiple testimonies of why a person, so we don't just find one thing and go, that's it. We look for multiple things. So the first thing is the Mars Uranus quincunx. Now, the next thing, what is another thing in her chart that we said
Well,
was,
let me say something here to this.
yes,
From just a basic thing of looking at Mars at 28 degrees, for those watching, we're studying, Mars is exalted at this degree. We just had this so many days ago. And Mars here at this 28-degree place is unstoppable. Like, is just a lot of people who are doing electional astrology, talisman work and stuff. They're, when they can work with Mars and Capricorn in a certain way, they could do it, right? But you can
yes,
get shit done, and it's about elevation of status and
yep,
certain kind of thing of being pro and all that. So without talking about any other aspects here, the engine of her chart, Mars, is functioning this way. And once it gets locked in, along with her fixed stuff, the engine in her chart, Mars, is just going to be relentless. Mars
yes,
and Capricorn relentless. So
yep,
let's just point that out, that it's exalted, and this is all about ambition in a lot of ways,
yes.
and it goes into everything. So just wanted to
Well,
say.
and in traditional Renaissance astrology and what I've studied, the fourth house is represents the father, and the 10th house represents the mother, which may be different than other people's systems, but that's how I learned. And as the fourth house represents the father, the ruler of the fourth house is that Mars in Capricorn. So it says something about her father is this, and he's incredible. He ran for president, for God's sakes. He got over a
Okay,
million
so while we're
votes.
here, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let's just do it. Let's just do it real quick, okay? And
Yep.
let's see if I can get this right. You're gonna see my thing. Here is the chart. Let me get this right here, because I have to enlarge everything and move shit. But just to point this out, there is her father. We don't know the birth time. It's August 12th, 1930. Just so you know, January 30th, 1962, 5:15 p.m. And
Ooh.
Natalie got the birth chart for Mary Kay. That's on Astro DNS. It's a double A Rodden rating, the best
Yes.
time you can get for the most
Yep.
part. So just to go off of what a viewer brought off, who was looking at her father's chart, since we're here, and I don't want to
Wow.
confuse people. I'll bring you back here in a second, okay? So there we go. Here, this person was mentioning that her father, who's on the outside of this chart at 19 degrees, is conjunct the node here, North Node, which we've talked about, Rahu Ketu here. And so
Yes,
just
and that you
go ahead.
guys, and that is actually crazy. I'm so glad somebody found that. Kudos to you, whoever looked that up, because in my notes, I actually wrote down that she is acting out her father's story in her chart by having that Rahu rising and then the sun representing the father, and the fact that he is actually a Leo sun and it's conjuncting her the nodes of her fate. Wow, you guys.
Yeah.
This is a
And
huge indication about the insanity of astrology and how
yeah.
amazing it
And
is.
just to say, it was Wake Me From This was the person who brought this up.
Yep.
And I'm seeing other things, but let's keep going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you back here. I'm getting used to working this program here because
Yep.
we're using a
We're
different
having fun.
yeah.
We're having
Uh,
fun now.
uh,
Okay, so we looked at, and so we know the Rahu rising is always in the first house in Leo, could be big drama, charismatic. Also, Rahu rising in the first house, especially in Leo, can sometimes indicate fame as well. So we see, but it can make someone very impulsive, and Rahu is essentially the color of smoke and represents illusion as well. And so, but it is like going after what you want without thinking about it or really digesting your experiences. And so that's the Rahu energy. That also makes her very impulsive with the Rahu rising. We also have the Uranus in the first house too, which makes her very impulsive as well. And then what about her chart would show that she is impulsive in relationships in particular? What do we see? Now we know we've got the Venus Neptune, and I think that's more about, well, it's in Scorpio, so I do think it is about her obsessive fantasy that she will not let go of. But
yeah.
also take a look, guys, at this Venus at 11 degrees Aquarius in a quincunx with Pluto. Okay.
So for
So
those who don't know, we're dealing with an inconjunct here. It's a quincunx. So basically, they're not seeing eye to eye. So basically, if you're looking at Pluto, and Pluto was to look directly 100 degrees opposite of itself, it would be like in the eighth house there, directly opposite. But it's kind of like a blind spot. So like Venus looking at Pluto, they don't see eye to eye. It's off to the side. So they're not connecting. So I'm just trying to give a visual
yes.
of this. So
Yeah. And inconjuncts or quincunxes in the chart can often indicate like major medical issues as well. But they also are areas where, like Nicholas said, where we can find extreme blind spots. And, sometimes if it's really bad, it's like we don't know how to use that planet very well. And so, Mary Kay Letourneau was like, obsessed with Billy Falau, and she was obsessed with their love. And even when she was in prison, she was still writing him love letters and getting sent to solitary confinement because she kept writing him letters over and over. So she just wasn't, she's relentless, and also as in my client practice, I have seen, Venus, quincunx, Pluto, and oftentimes that sometimes when people have that really tightly in their chart like that, it can indicate, a story of unfortunately, sexual assault and things like that.
you're
But
taking if one. Go ahead.
yeah, but it also can indicate the opposite side of somebody who's an abuser. And just to kind of throw someone off the top of my head, like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who like, busted into people's windows and like, was strangling people and all that. He had Venus, he had Venus in conjunct Pluto. And there's a lot of actually serial killers that have Pluto and Virgo, quincunx, Venus.
Natalie,
Um,
what do you do with your extra time?
I
I'm
just sit
sorry.
around and
I'm like,
I just sit around and I twiddle my thumbs day and
yeah,
night.
it is really impressive. I'm gonna go. I can research anybody's chart. Let's do serial killers. Let's
Let's go.
do. So,
Next time we're
and I'm
going
talking
straight
shit
up.
right now, but
Yeah.
because I already know this about you. But also let's bring up the thing about Pluto. A
Yeah.
lot of times too, we're dealing with subconscious stuff from the more modern point of view, and if it's not connecting with the Venus here, she's playing out stuff, Pluto Venus stuff. And now listen, it for instance, this weekend we're gonna have Pluto Venus happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, we could take this a bunch of different ways, but typically lately, the conversation has come up of more of the myth of Hades and Persephone, right? And so,
Yes.
depending on how you take the myth, right? Hades kidnapped and raped Persephone. I mean,
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
that. Now, there's other ways of looking at this. There is a different ways of people have looked at that story because it's complex. But on the basic level here, you do have a Pluto Venus connection here that is, in this case, it's
Yeah.
literally in
Yeah.
charge. That's second degree rape. I mean, it's like
Yes, it
I just need to
is.
point that
Yeah.
out that with Pluto Venus, there's a thing about control and
Yes.
manipulation in a
Yep.
relationship, right? And
Yep.
owning you. I own you.
You?
You know,
Yes.
you're
You know what
mine.
she said to him in a
Yeah.
letter? She said, if you from jail, she wrote him and wrote him a letter and said, if you hook up with any other girls while I'm in prison, I will castrate you.
Not
An
surprised.
inch for each girl, an inch for each girl is what she said. And now, when she was doing an interview later, she was like, "Oh, I was joking. I was joking." But but yeah, I mean, and even I listened to a body language expert analyze their interview, and the body language expert was pointing out, her eyebrow, this, that, here and there, and was saying that she likes control. And you can tell because in the video with him, she turns to him multiple times and says, "Who is the boss? Who is the boss?"
Yep.
Like you
That's what
pursued
it was
me.
really crazy watching that because I'm
Yeah.
looking for that video again, by the way. I'm gonna throw it in the chat for those
Yeah.
who who just
Want to
wanna
check it out?
entertain themselves later on Valentine's Day.
Right? Right?
Yeah, just, but, so anyway, I'll look for that right now, but, keep going here because we got some stuff and,
Yeah, yeah.
um
Yep. So that's the Venus Pluto. So again, the obsession, the control issues in relationship, even in the interview, she's still trying to control him, talk over him, control the dialogue, the information flow, like everything. So we've got that going on. Now, so we went through those things in her chart that would indicate that she has a problem with impulse control in her life or in relationships. Now, this is for my Delulu queens. For the next exercise that we're going to do here is to look at what indicates in her chart that, and I think we've already talked about a lot of them, but we're going to go through like every aspect. What in her chart indicates she has problems with delusions in relationships, that there may be elements of gaslighting, narcissism, gullibility, fantasy life, difficult time accepting reality, aspects in her chart that may indicate she's an amazing artist or an amazing con artist. Okay. So that is, we want to find all the aspects in the chart that basically, yes. Okay. What do we got going on? We've got Vivi with the Neptune T square. Okay. Yes, we do. And look at, there's Neptune. All right. And also keep in mind, guys, that this Neptune in Scorpio is at the bending of the nodes. Okay. So when we say that there's a planet in the chart that's at the bending or in a T square with the nodes, it means that this planet is going to be extremely impactful in how her life plays out and how her fate plays out in her life. And so if she can't get her obsessive fantasies under control, Neptune and Scorpio, those fantasies are going to control her. And so, yes, we see that there. We also see that the ascendant is squaring Neptune. We see the sun is squaring Neptune. We see Jupiter, Venus. Look at all of this, you guys. Look at all of that.
Out
Isn't
there,
that
man.
insane?
Freak.
Look at that. Almost every single Uranus, Pluto, the moon in Chiron.
Yeah,
And
by fixed, it's a thing there where, again, we talk about stuff some of but again, you just watch some of the interviews, and I think a lot of times you'll see a lot of dynamics that we're talking about. Natalie's brought up in the chart, but there's a Neptune haze over it all. Like,
haze.
it's weird. Like with the video I put there, it's like an hour and some long if you can make it through, but the interview does a really good job of like putting her right on the spot and corralling it. And also, but if you pay attention to his body language and answers, you could see at this point where that video came out was at the end of the relationship. I think they were already, something was already going
Yeah,
down.
they were
And you could
separating.
tell he was just kind of like done, and
Yeah,
he
he was
figured it
done.
out. Like, I think
Yep.
after everything they've been through, you could see that he was just saying stuff, but he was, what's the word? Disassociated? I don't know. Like, there's kind of like,
Definitely. Like, there's total gaslighting that's actually happening in real time.
in
Um,
real time. That's
in
what it
real
is.
time in the interview, and she turns to
Yep.
him, "Who pursued who? Who's the boss? Who's the," she's like,
I
and he's
said
like,
that. I don't remember that.
"That? I don't
I,
remember
I
that.
don't.
I didn't
I don't
say
remember that.
that."
Like stuff like that. So, but yeah, he's even says it and stuff. So okay. Anyway,
Yes. So
yeah.
we have a Delulu problem, folks, with the Neptune there. And, there's some psychologists that have analyzed her behavior online, and some of them say she's a narcissist. Now, we're not, obviously mental health professionals. We can't diagnose anybody, but I will say, you guys, as a person who has studied narcissism a lot and, looked at charts and things like that, when I see problems with Neptune, and problems with Jupiter, and sometimes the sun is involved in it too, that can really indicate somebody is, especially the Jupiter square Neptune right there. Okay. She also has her sun square Neptune. And the huge thing about narcissism is that there needs to be a level of denial, like never admitting to anything, never, like, you have to be basically in Delulu land. And to the point where you're gaslighting other people, hurting other people, making them doubt their story, like this type of thing, self-aggrandizing. Yes, Vivi, like,
Mhm.
for sure. With the Jupiter square Neptune, a lot of that, like, I'm self-important and what I believe is very important, but hypocrites, total hypocrites. Now, and this is something I borrow from Indian astrology again. In Indian astrology, Jupiter in the chart represents the beliefs that you were taught by your father or your teachers or your educators. Now, keep in mind, her father was a huge hypocrite. He spoke about family values. He spoke about, the conservative agenda. He was all about the nuclear family, all that stuff. And those Jupiter and Aquarius philosophies that her father taught her are square Neptune. And sometimes when we see that Jupiter square Neptune, we can see somebody who has very hypocritical, very beliefs that they change to fit whatever story they're having. And a lot of times those people do get exposed as hypocrites. And her father did, and she did too. But up until her dying day, she was still trying to make these arguments. So yeah, we can really see in her chart where the need to believe a fantasy, right? And her chart really has that energy with the Mercury K2 square Neptune of, well, whatever you need to say to yourself to get you through the day. Some people have to like lie to themselves about their life and everything that's happened just in order to cover up what they did or get through the day. And I think her chart really has that energy, and she's incredibly frustrating to listen to as a speaker because she's just all over the place with that Neptune. Nebula, yes. The Jupiter Neptune in charts of narcissists. And a lot of times it is an inflated Jupiter. That really grandiose, inflated, self-entitled. Because Jupiter is amazing, right? But if you can't, it's not
Yeah,
amazing in everyone's hands.
the
Yeah,
idealism can just blow out and it turns
yeah,
into something else. But from the person's point of view,
yep,
depending on what else supports that in the chart, the idealism and it contributes to that, it just keeps going, never comes back. It's not based in reality, so on and so forth. And by the way, I just want to stop here and acknowledge. I know we're talking here, and there's some people have come into the chat that are in chat. Some of you knew Ray Weather, a couple of you, but I know there's people out there watching or just hanging out. So just want to say thanks. I know you're
yeah,
out there. And so keep going.
yeah.
I want to get into something here, something that you and I had a private conversation about. That it's sort of it's
Let's
not a
get
transition point, but it
let's
had
get
to do.
into it.
Well,
Yeah.
when you talked, you mentioned the Venus retrograde moments that happened.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
let's do that. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
let's
Let's
do it.
go
So
into it. Okay.
yeah,
So we've kind of went through the chart a lot. There's, more things that we could say, more things that we could get out of that. But let's go ahead and check out some transits. And because I have a list of different transits. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Six of Swords. Hey, baby. Thank you for being here. Six of Swords is my friend. Okay, let's go ahead and see here. I'm going to close up my annotating and I'm going to show, and I'm calling it MKL, Mary Kay Letourneau. This is her first arrest
here, just
that,
for people to do it, can you move
Mhm.
your wing? Can you click and hold your Astrogold and move it just to
Yeah,
show them?
like that.
Yeah, move it
Oh,
a
or
little bit
like
more.
this.
Yeah, so we got just so say the time and date so people can see it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
all right.
Okay. So this is the first arrest, and this is when she was caught in a car with Billy Falau, the teenage boy. This is her first arrest. It happened on June 18th, 1996. It was in or around Seattle, Washington. It would have been in the early morning hours, but I didn't have the exact time of the arrest. So we're just looking at, the transits and where the planets are at. But this is the actual day that she was first arrested, basically. And I want to point out here, let's go ahead and I want to point out this Venus retrograde because this isn't her last arrest by any means. This is the first one of getting caught with him in a car. And you will notice that Venus is retrograde at 15 degrees Gemini. And at the time, that Venus is also squaring her Pluto, her natal Pluto, and it also is making a quincunx to that obsessive fantasy Neptune. So we can see she's getting caught on a Venus retrograde, and we'll see later where she gets caught on a Venus retrograde again. So that is, pretty interesting. But let's take a look at this chart. I'm just going to pull my notes
Yeah,
up.
because that Venus,
And
that transiting Venus on that day in Gemini, all those Gemini planets too. You got to
yeah,
remember they're trining all her Aquarius planets and
now,
connecting with her Leo rising too, but by sextile.
yes. Yeah.
So you have this anyway.
No, you're right.
Yep.
That's important too, because
I
she
could keep
actually,
going about this, but
yeah.
keep going
No, no,
because
no, no, no. I'm sorry. I interrupted. Go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go. Let's keep
Okay.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say that she talked her way out of this arrest. Now, that's very Gemini. Like she ended up, so they got arrested. It was, late in the evening. They were by this pier. An officer knocked on the window. She told him exactly what to do: lay down, pretend like you're sleeping, and I'm just taking you home. They called Billy Falau's mother, who was like, "Oh yeah, that's his teacher." She was working. She was a single mom and working, so she's like, "Yeah, that's his teacher. She's bringing him home," even though it was late at night. She didn't really bat an eye. So she told Billy what to do, like lay back, don't do anything. She talked to the officer. The officer called Billy's mother, and he was like, "Oh no, it's fine." And so she ended up not getting busted. Sorry, I called it first arrest, but it wasn't really an arrest. It was basically her getting, like, the cops finding her with steamy windows by a pier. And okay, yeah, Sparkles of Gold. Nicholas, go ahead with you said 27 Taurus
Somebody was asking
necessary.
in the chat, so I'm just
Oh,
answering them.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
keep going.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so she basically like talks her way out of getting arrested. I called it first arrest, but she doesn't actually get arrested until later. When somebody finds her husband finds love letters that she wrote to him, and they find out that she's like 6 months pregnant with his child. And one of his family members like reports her to the police. So it's not really her first arrest, but it's her first, like the police are on her starting at this point.
Okay, so let me say this.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so off Wikipedia, they found her in a car at a marina. She was seen jumping into the front seat while he pretended to sleep in the back. She and how do you say his last name, or what should we call his first name?
Falau? Yeah, Billy Falau?
Falau
Yeah.
provided false names when asked for identification, and Falau lied about his age, saying he was 18. He said that no touching had taken place, and Letourneau said she and her husband had gotten into an argument, and Falau, who she said was a family friend who had been staying with
Mhm.
them that night, witnessed the argument and ran away upset. She said she left to find him. They were taken to a police station where Falau's mother was called. The mother was asked what should be done. She said to return Falau to Letourneau.
Yep.
She later said that if the police had alerted her to the fact that Letourneau had lied about Falau's age and what had occurred in the car, she would not have allowed her son to go back. Anyway,
Yep.
just want to say that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that is important. So she talks her way out of it. And Vili Falau, his mother was, a single mom. She was like worked at a bakery at odd hours, and, she was gone all the time. And so it was kind of a do it yourself type of childhood that he had. And he was also from another country. And I don't know if he was first generation or his mother was first generation, but I think maybe his mother was first generation. But she kind of just, it seemed like a hardworking single mom. She just kind of went along with it. And so she didn't really raise an eyebrow. But what's interesting too about this day, look at where transiting Pluto is at, you guys. We have Pluto in Sagittarius, and Pluto was in Sagittarius in the late 90s. And you can see that, yeah, SG, all this started from a dare. His friends dared him to hit on her, and he did it. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And
You open that
basic,
door, man. Let's just listen. It's not proof, okay? But
yeah,
he
yeah.
he he wouldn't have hit on her, and her friends told her if there wasn't the opportunity or the door.
Well,
You're that young. You're you even know you can project and have a crush on your teacher.
a lot of people have crushes on their
Yeah,
teachers,
I know. I
but
did. I think of one particular
yeah,
teacher I had a crush on. I gotta go
yeah,
find her. I'm just joking. So
yeah.
she's in her 70s, probably right at this point or more.
Yeah.
But from that point of view, from a young boy, young, thing like there was like, it was allowed, you can do this, because if an adult's sitting there and they're catching flirtatious something from somebody else, they're creating the boundary. They're
Oh,
being mature. Like,
yeah.
that's not what this is. They're
Yeah,
stating
they're
it, they're
shutting it
creating,
down.
they're shutting
They're
it down. And
saying
so I
yes,
just need
yeah.
to say that,
For sure, for sure,
yeah,
and even if he did have it and he said, "Oh, I thought she was pretty," or something like that, a lot of kids, a lot of little boys or whoever girls have could have crushes on their teachers, but that doesn't
yeah.
mean they act on them, they tell them, "Oh, no, that's so sweet," and, like, laugh it off, and that's the end of it, like, that's usually it's nothing more than that, and so but interestingly, her marriage was falling apart at the time, and her and her husband had those financial difficulties, difficult marriages, Sun Saturn in the seventh house, ruling the first and seventh, difficult marriages, hard times, no money, extramarital affairs. Her husband's cheating on her. She's, you know, but a lot of people have those situations and still don't try to go out with 13-year-olds. So, we always are turning a watchful eye to that anyway. But this is interesting with the Pluto, because you can see Pluto at 1 degree Sagittarius is starting to just harsh out her moon, is grind on that moon. And from 1996 through 1998, when she gets sentenced to a 7.5 year prison sentence, that Pluto is just bearing down on her natal moon that whole time. And keep in mind, she had 2 children during this entire time with Billy Falau, who she had one of them in prison, and then she had the other one before she went into prison. And so that Pluto on that moon, you guys, let me erase some of this here, because one thing I noticed as I was looking at all these transit charts is the thing that we didn't talk about too much, but we should mention, is this moon Chiron Pluto T square right here. And every time this moon Pluto Chiron T square is getting triggered, it's during this time. And keep in mind, she had 4 children of her own already that she essentially abandoned to go be with a 13-year-old. And then she brings 2 more children into the picture during that time, who are growing up without their mother. And that theme of the abandoning mother, or the embarrassing mother, moon Chiron, or mother as monster, mother as evil,
I'll be right back.
Mhm. Mother as destroyer of the family, like all of those things are coming into play. And you look at that Pluto on her moon, just gutting out her natal moon as all of that is happening. So I think that's interesting too, because Pluto just hovers over her moon during those couple of years, when all of the court cases going on, and she's having the babies and all of that. So it's a very interesting time. So we've got that going on. And then what else did I want to point out about it? Oh, well, and look at Uranus too, you guys, because Uranus is at 3 degrees Aquarius here. It just entered into the sign of Aquarius. And as Uranus makes her way through her seventh house, and sometimes Uranus in the seventh house transits can indicate divorce or changes in partner. As Uranus is going through her seventh house, when it hits her Jupiter in 1999, her and her husband officially divorce, her first husband. And so she's got this huge thing going on with the Uranus in her seventh house. We can also see Neptune is right on that Mars. And, her ability to be evasive and hide her criminal behavior and talk her way out of it, and all of that was definitely coming up in this transit chart. Yes. And Lisa, you're right. Mars is the out-of-sect malefic. And we'll see this Mars getting triggered a little bit later on her death, big time, as the out-of-sect malefic. But yeah, so it's a fascinating chart, and we can see Pluto just grinding away on that moon. We see Uranus making its way. Neptune is also going to be making its way through her seventh house as well. And incidentally, she ends up getting married in 2005 to Vili Falau when that Neptune has reached Jupiter. So once
Course,
Neptune in
of course it
Aquarius,
does. Of course,
yeah,
it's like,
yes,
let's Neptune it up more to
let's
make
do it
it
even more.
seem like reality.
Let's go
I,
crazy,
I
right?
I'm I got a lot of energy surging through me the last 48 hours, and I'm trying to channel it, but, like, watching this videos and the recap the last 2 days of her and watching her talk, it just not only
It
creeped
get
me out,
Yeah.
but it pissed me off
Yep.
because for me, whenever I see people thinking they're pulling a fast one on me,
Yep.
like, they're talking to me a certain way, and I'm like, "I see right through you. Like, you're messing with a
Yeah.
Mercury and Gemini. Like, don't fuck with me. I got Pluto square my sun. There's a lot of other stuff in my chart. I'm not right all the time, but I'm reading it like da da da. And so when I'm seeing the interviews and the thing, she's just like on stage thinking she's pulling a fast one the whole time, and it's like we all see it. Like it's a double, triple down. So anyway, when I look at something like
Yes.
this with this Neptune thing on the marriage, it's kind of like going how far can I go all in? And
Right.
for me, it's effing whacked. I hope
Yes.
the dude has a therapist, and he does. And can I do something here really quick?
Yes,
Can
go
can
for
I
it.
do something? I
Yeah.
um and I have to this isn't going to be the best thing, but while you've been talking, is that my screen? That is. And then okay, so we don't know Billy's birth time, right? But we
Right, we
pretty
don't.
much know. I just want to show you this. So we don't know, but here he is on the outside, right? He's June 26,
Gemini.
1983.
Is he Gemini?
There's but look where his
Mm.
Venus is.
Oh
It's
my
freaking I can't believe we didn't look at this before
gosh.
because there's her dad, the son, right?
Yes.
And then here's this. And
Yep.
I'm like, it's just wild to me. Uh,
Yeah.
and remember when we look at this stuff here, Leo stuff, anything transiting like the father and stuff, it's also hitting all the Aquarius stuff in the chart, right? It's not
Yes,
just
for
on the node
sure.
and all that, but it's doing its
Venus is
thing
right.
and even squaring, parts of the other fixed parts of the chart. But I just want to show that, to you all. And, he's got a North Node Mars, something going on here. But the other thing I want to show you is this. I mean, when we're talking is here is let me get this straight. I'm not looking at the there. Let's do here. And then is here. And this Uranus is right on her moon. And so if
Yeah.
we were to take the perversion and fucked upness of it all, I could see like on his world and connecting with her, like how it happens,
Yeah.
the conduits, right? Like how they're connecting. But Uranus and Jupiter on the moon, and then it's opposite, by sign, some of the Gemini stuff here. But his Mercury in Gemini 19 connects with her Mercury. Like
Yeah.
and I know this is a Gemini and dealing with Aquarius stuff too. They speak a secret language. It's like an air language. I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Gemini and Aquarius, and it's different from Gemini Libra way.
Libra. Yeah, yeah.
I know this very well because I have it in my chart, but I know with other Aquarians that there's this like secret language antenna psychic mind meld thing that
Yep.
happens. And so I'm just showing this to be he's the victim.
Yeah.
And whatever from just a point of view of like even in his mind connecting with her and it somehow making it legit in his mind, they were connected in ways, right? So
Yes, they
it's weird.
were.
Now, and something else I want to say to this before you go into the next Venus chart, retrograde chart,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Is that, all these kids, four with the other marriage and with him. I mean, when you have Moon and Sag in the fifth, if we don't look at anything else, it's like there definitely ain't no condoms. There ain't no birth control. Okay. So
Right.
it's just like, it's just like,
Well,
and
and
then
if
there's
you
the
look at it
religious
too,
past,
yeah, she
Yeah.
has a lot of kids. And, what's fascinating about the kids is Jupiter for her rules the fifth house. Jupiter is in her seventh house of partnership,
Huh?
which is in a conjunction with K2. Jupiter in a woman's chart equals the husband. And so, you can kind of, and it's in her seventh house of partnership anyway. So, my child is my I mean, you this could get very warped, but you could almost look at it as someone who's a child. My fifth house ruler is in my seventh house. Um, someone who is, my child or my child's age or a child is in my seventh house in a conjunction with K2, the past life planet. And weirdly could say something about how a child is like a partner to her, or a child becomes a partner to her. And what
Right. This
yeah.
this is where it's fucked up. And not only that, somebody's asking in chat, like Vivi says, so then like what was this whole situation fulfilling him karmically? So if we're gonna talk about karma, I don't want to get into that
No,
per
no,
se.
no. I
But
don't think that's for
in one
us
sense,
to
his
say.
Venus,
Yeah.
she's elevating his Venus. So in one sense, if we just look at it, we're not thinking how
Yeah.
fucked up it all is, but she is paying attention to his Venus and
Yeah.
she knows how to do it. You're the one, you're this thing. She elevates him or
Sim.
tries,
Yeah.
or it seems that way, right?
Yes.
And so,
Yep.
like, if you're a young boy, you don't fucking know. It's so fucking creeped out.
No.
The more we talk about this and go
The
there and we
more
try to
creeped
like
out it
logically do it,
gets.
it's like
Yeah.
I ah.
Yeah, and I don't think we
Anyway,
can say,
yeah.
I don't think we can say if this situation was fulfilling for him, karmically, just 'cause I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if
I can't.
astrologers can
I'm not
say
making
that.
that call. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
going
don't
to
think we
even
can
say
make
that.
that judgment.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think karmically, I'm not going to go there. And by the way, for those who know me or my clients watching, I never
Yeah.
talk about karma in my sessions or on YouTube. Do I believe in certain things too? But I don't use it in my practice. I used to back in the day, but I don't because it starts playing God, goddess, and going beyond things that I don't know. And I do not like to play that. That is me. Now, if you're coming
Yeah.
from the Indian perspective, it is part of the culture and system, and they have a history of explaining this. So if you're going to
You're
go
right.
that way, know that it has a basis in history, that I'm not going to take the new age
Yeah,
version of it. It's
exactly.
10% of it, which
Yeah.
happened in the late 20th century with
Mhm.
astrology, and do past life notes. Listen, I'm not getting on anybody's case if they're doing evolutionary astrology, whatever. I did that. I know what that is. I love
Yeah.
some of the stuff that brings. I'm just
Yep.
not that astrologer, so I don't want to talk karmically. And it's like for me,
Yeah.
it just gets into like some
Yeah,
shady
Vivi,
zones.
and sorry, Vivi, we didn't mean to
We're
call
not,
it your
yeah, we're not
question or
dissing
anything
on you.
either.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
V. Don't want to do.
yeah, definitely
I
not.
answered it
Yep.
because I knew what you were alluding to, right? I knew what you
Yes.
were saying, but I also
Yeah.
want to be clear for me, right?
Just clear
So
about how you approach that, and in Vedic
it's a
astrology
good
or Indian
question, though.
astrology, the whole chart is indicating our karma. So it's not just K2, it's not just, the south node or whatever. It's the whole chart indicates our karma. And so that really brings it into focus. And in Vedic astrology, there's like 4 or 5 different types of karma you're incurring in this lifetime that's automatic, karma that you can change, karma that you can't change. I mean, it's a very complicated system. And so in the Western culture, there may not be as much emphasis
This
in
is
talking about that
this is really
either.
good that this came up, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
you said those words to answer,
Yeah.
because I we knew what you were talking about, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to differentiate and to be
Right.
clear. And I have a different way
Yeah.
of practicing. Natalie does too. I could say, because
Hmm.
Natalie's been studying another thing, she could speak more to it in that sense, that I could speak to it, but it's not
Yeah.
my thing, right?
I don't really, yeah. I mean, I think it's hard too if you, because I don't feel like any of us, I mean, anybody who's saying they know why good things or why bad things happen to good people, anybody who, I mean, your chart will show you something that happens, right? I mean, the astrologer can read what's happening, but we don't. A lot of times my friends will ask me that. They'll be like, "Well, what about, explain divine timing to me?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know." Like, I don't know. I mean, was it divine? Like, I mean, you could have a 50-hour conversation about that, but the
It's
point is
yeah,
we're all just rapping
and
about it because none of us have died. We don't know
yeah,
what the
because
afterlife is.
yeah, because and then especially and the reason why if I seemed very forward here just now is
Yeah.
because we're dealing with a rape, honestly, an
Yeah,
assault.
yeah.
So for me, it's
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
For me, that is first and foremost what
Yes.
this is. And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Um,
Valentine's Day, lover
but
bears.
let's just reiterate, because it's very easy for us you and I,
Yeah.
Natalie, to talk about this chart, and we got some very smart. We got all these people in chat. I know watching and not chatting. You're
Yeah.
all astrologers. You're doing it, and you got some amazing comments here. And then the question that she asked, which is a really good one, led us
Yep.
to this point. But let's just be clear.
Yes,
This is
right.
a fucking dark ass fucked up situation.
Yeah,
And
it is.
and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to find reasoning, even though
Right.
I'm the one who initiate putting the buy wheel. I took it off, by the way. Let me go back to it really quick. Of like, oh, I just to see from the astrological point of view how their charts are connecting. But we have to remember what this is all about, right?
Well, and
And
I wanna
and
actually mention quick, if I can, for 5 minutes and talk
yeah,
about her children's pain just for a moment, because she
sure.
does have 6 children, 4 from her first husband and 2 from Billy. Now, I can't, I don't know any of her children. I can't speak to their stories, but when I look at her chart, let me share the
Okay,
let's
which one you want to do?
see.
Yours? Your screen?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. One thing that I feel too, I feel it in my soul to speak up for, to the extent that I can, to speak up for children who have, been through narcissistic abuse and been through abusive childhoods, when they didn't have a parent to protect them. Like, the thing that really bothers me about her chart is the ruler of this fifth house. The fifth house represents children in astrology, and the ruler of the fifth is Jupiter. If we see that Jupiter is in the seventh house, okay, but it's square this Neptune, which makes me feel like she never acknowledged her children's pain, or she never, like, when it came to her children. And she talked about this in one of her interviews, how she didn't want to touch on the pain of her children while she was in prison, which I get. Maybe it would have driven her down a rabbit hole of, self-loathing and depression or whatever, assuming she's a normal person with empathy. But what bothers me about this chart is how little she cared about the feelings of her current 4 children that she had, and then the new ones that she was bringing into the world. And she seems like the type of woman who is having children to try to save her first marriage. So she had all those kids. And then, she was trying to keep Billy close to her. So she purposely was getting pregnant. She's 34, he's 13. He might not even know anything about contraception. And, certainly as a 34-year-old, I mean, come on now. So, there's something within me that thinks that she did that in order to trap him into a life with her, because she knew he wasn't going to abandon his own children. Look at, when you see him talk, he seems very, he's had a very hard life, but he seems very earnest about his life and taking care of his children. And
Yeah, and he
so,
also comes from a culture of that too because of his
yes,
blood
his
makeup and his background.
background,
Yeah.
his American Samoan, yeah. So I that really bothers me when I look at the chart, because I feel like she's never acknowledged her children's pain, and she never takes any responsibility for her children's pain, and that's why I think she is a straight up abuser. So,
Yeah. Okay. So let me just do a quick. I know I dropped the Wikipedia link in there. If you don't know, you
yep,
can look at the timeline because we have the chart up here when she first got arrested, right?
yep,
And so then here, like if we look, she got released from prison because she made the deal never to contact. So he was 21 when she came out of prison. He persuaded the court to reverse the no contact order. They got
yes.
married May 20th, 2005. Anyway, maybe let's not do the second Venus chart, but should we just jump to the death chart? But
Yeah,
um,
let's just say
we're
really
2 hours
quick.
22 in
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah, all we're gonna
Um,
do, let's wrap it, and let's just
yeah.
say the date she first originally got only a 3-month jail sentence plus probation. Like, that was what she originally got. And on that day that she got that super lax sentence, Jupiter transiting Jupiter was on her natal Jupiter to the frickin' minute, guys.
Mhm.
And so Jupiter was giving her a big, hall pass there, but like Nicholas said earlier, she just ended up, right after she got out of that 3-month period, she ended up right back in prison. And
Yeah, let me say this part. Through a plea agreement, her sentence was reduced to 6 months, 3 of which were suspended in county jail, 3 years after of sex offender treatment. She was not required initially to register as a sex offender. As part of her agreement, she could not contact him or her 5 children, or have contact with any minors. She became the subject of international tabloid scandal. We know that. Experienced symptoms of mental health
yep.
stuff. On the 3rd of February 98, 2 weeks after completing her jail sentence, she was found by police in a car. I guess you should pull this chart up since I'm saying
Yes.
it.
Yes. No, this is the yeah.
February 3rd, 1998, 2 weeks after completing her jail sentence, Laterna was found by police in a car near her home. Initially said she was alone in the car. How do you say his name again?
Billy Falau.
Falau. She and
Yep.
Falau provided false names when asked for ID.
Yep.
Although it was reported that intercourse had occurred in the car, he told detective they just kissed and frequently, and he also reported that he touched Laterna on the thigh, but no intercourse occurred. So
Yeah.
they met a couple. There's evidence they met a couple times since she came out of jail. When she
Yeah.
was arrested, there was $6,200 in cash on her, baby clothes, and a passport in the car.
They were gonna try to leave the country or something, and
Some shit. I
yeah.
won't read that. Anyway, in 98 of February, the judge revoked Laterno's plea agreement and reinstated the prison sentence of 7.5 years. And I'll just stop
Yeah.
there if you want to pull the chart up. And let's breeze through this one quick so
Yep,
we can go
we'll
to the death
breeze.
one.
We'll go straight to the death one,
We're
yeah.
like 2.5 hours
So
in.
yeah, so this is remember how you guys when we showed you before when she got caught in the car with him and Venus was retrograde in Gemini, now she gets caught with him in the car again and Venus is retrograde in Capricorn. So we have another Venus retrograde. Also, look at that Jupiter in Aquarius. Now, before, when she got the 3-month sentence and got off really easy, Jupiter transiting Jupiter was making a conjunction with her natal Jupiter. But now, as she gets arrested for the second time in violation of the no contact order, Jupiter is at 29 degrees Aquarius. And a couple days later, after she gets caught by the police, Jupiter moves into Pisces and her luck runs out, and she is having to serve her full 7.5 year sentence. And her plea bargain is thrown out the window, and she
Yep.
violated basically. The judge said, you wasted the opportunity. Jupiter conjunction Jupiter, transiting Jupiter that we saw earlier. You wasted the opportunity. Jupiter moved out of her seventh house and moved off of all her Aquarius planets. Her luck ran out, and now she's got to go to prison for a long time.
In October 16th of 1998, she gave birth to her second daughter in prison. Their second
Yep.
daughter. Just we need to say that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other stuff you can read about the books they published in the Wikipedia that I threw in. And anyway, so
Yeah, SG, this is a day chart because the sun is above the horizon. And so Mars is going to be the out of sign malefic, and Jupiter is going to be the most benefic in the chart, just to answer your question. Now, let's go ahead
So
and
while you pull up that chart, I'm going to fill them in. They've done a bunch of interviews. You can read this stuff on Wikipedia. On May 19th or May 9th, 2017, after 12 years of marriage, Bilal filed for separation from Laterna, but he later withdrew the filing. As of April 2018, he was working in a home improvement store, was a professional DJ, while she worked as a legal assistant. They finalized legal separation August 2019. Earlier in the marriage, Falal said he was not a victim and he was unashamed of the relationship. And then, according to some People magazine article in 2020, a source close to him says that he sees things clearly now and realizes this wasn't a healthy relationship from the start. Oh, I don't know. That's a lot of whatever. Okay. So
yeah, it's a lot. All right. So now we've come to this bitter end here, folks. But anyway, so on July 6th of 2020, Mary Kay Letourneau succumbed to colon cancer, stage 4 colon cancer, and passed away, left all of her estate to Vili Falau. They were technically not together at the time, but he was there at her bedside as she passed away. And one thing that immediately struck me about this chart is, and as SG was mentioning, this Mars in Capricorn is the out of sect malefic, and therefore it's going to make the most difficult planet in the chart, even though it's exalted. But on her death, basically Saturn in Capricorn was riding right up on that Mars, and Pluto was also right up on her Mars as well too. And those would have been both long-term transits that would have been happening, going back and forth over that Mars as she fell ill and eventually passed.
We're talking
Yeah.
about this while Venus is in Capricorn at 28, 29 degrees.
Right?
Hate to say
Yeah.
this. Mars just did that a couple days ago. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. And,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that's some creepy videos I watched. Even the May, December,
Mm.
it's funny how they name that because they're almost giving May, December relationships a bad It's like, listen, I ain't gonna judge anybody if they're doing a May December relationship legally. And even
Right.
with dudes out there, you date younger women. I've been on the other side. I've been on the other side of May December.
Yeah.
I did it,
Yeah.
consensual this, whatever. But there's some ages where somebody's present, they're not like
Yeah.
35 years old and 17. Again, we're getting into ethical shit here. But for the most part, that movie that's on Netflix that you led me to that's based on all this,
Yep.
the scene I watched today is like Natalie Portman goes to who plays the actress who wants to portray
Yes.
Mary Kay, let's say, in
Hey.
this movie. I won't
Yep.
get into this, but basically uh interviews, kind of meets with Mary Kay's first husband.
Yep.
And then, he's kind of showing himself. This is a fictional movie, but it's based on, and he's like, finds out that she's cheating and like finds out it's a 12, 13-year-old. So he's just like,
Yeah.
who knows what that is. And then she goes to like the hardware store that she worked at and he worked at. Am I correct by saying this? And they got it on, or they had something got caught
Yes,
in the
in the
back of
movie.
a
Yep.
storeroom. And
Yep.
then like today, Natalie Portman went there as the person trying to be the character, and she's acting like she's getting with
She's
him. I
rem
turned it off. I was just like,
This is
I
so
couldn't deal.
bizarre.
I
I
could it was like
know.
what was the movie where she's the ballet dancer? Black
Oh,
Swan?
The
It was
Black
like Black
Swan.
Swan all of a sudden. Natalie Portman was playing this character and doing this thing, and I was just like, "Okay, enough research. I've had enough.
Enough. I've
I've
had enough.
I've done
I've
enough
had
of this."
enough.
After
I know.
after the name of the
Yeah.
movie on Netflix is May, September.
May, December. May,
May,
December.
December, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
So,
Yep.
but isn't it May, September?
No, December. May,
Like,
December.
traditionally, when they talk about older person, young person, is
You
it
know
May? Has
what?
it always been May, December?
You know what? When you said that, that's the first time I've ever heard that, and honestly, I have to be 100% honest, like, when I saw the movie May, December, I didn't realize that I didn't know what they meant by May, December, actually, like, you just taught me that right now,
It
so,
is. You see,
yeah.
here, it's May. It says, uh, o it's typically called May, September, but maybe they did
Oh,
May,
the
December.
movie is called
The
May, December,
Yeah,
yep.
like it's like a
Yeah,
thing, so
yeah, like someone
so
in the spring of their lifetime versus someone later in life or something, mhm,
yeah, so
yep.
you can look it up, like, but I think, you know okay, so w I'll let you start here. Why did you pick this person's chart for
Yeah.
Valentine's Day love bombing? Why? We're love bombing
Yeah.
you. We've called
We're
this we're love
so
bombing you,
yeah.
okay?
So, yeah, good question on why did I pick
Venus,
it?
Neptune, you know,
Yeah.
will love bomb. Mars, Neptune will. That this person
Oh,
has
you
Mars,
mean the
Neptune.
definition of the
Yeah,
planets that
because
are love
we
bombing.
started
Okay.
the stream for those
Yeah.
who stuck through the whole 2.5 hours here, that we were
Woohoo.
joking in the beginning about, the chart
Yes.
we're gonna pull up,
Oh,
talking
right.
about some of the Aquarius stuff this week, but we're talking about why we were calling it "We Love Bombing You."
Correct.
Right.
No, now I know what you mean. I thought yeah, I was thinking of a more esoteric answer. Well, I looked deep within my soul and I felt like we should watch this,
Yeah.
we should look at this chart. But actually the love bombing in and of itself is we can see in Mary Kay Letourneau's chart, the Venus Jupiter square Neptune
Alright,
is
give me a
love
second. While you keep
bombing.
talking, I'll put it up again.
Mhm.
Hold
Yep.
on a second, okay? I have to switch things around on my thing, but,
Yep.
let's, so say that again? The what? The
Yeah,
Venus.
so yep, so when we think about love bombing, now, bombing is a very strong word, right? So people might be thinking, "Oh, more Mars Pluto or Venus Pluto or Venus Mars," which, I think you could make an argument for Venus Pluto, Venus Mars, but love bombing is more of a um like it's an early infatuation energy, and the goal of it is to break down the barriers of the other person and make them like putty in your hands. And it's usually where they come across as like the perfect, most wonderful partner in the world. And when Mary Kay talks about her relationship with Billy, she's like, our love is endless, our love is eternal. She's saying that in prison and so forth. But the love bombing typically happens earlier on in the relationship. And then after that, people will start, showing their true colors, which is oftentimes like when I'm giving advice to friends or just talking to people, which I don't know. I'm a Libra rising, so I oftentimes end up being like the advice friend, unfortunately. Like a Libra risings, we can't get out of that role. But a lot of advice like I'll give sometimes is, wait 6 months to a year before you move in with someone, because a lot of times in the first 6 months, and if they're really good, they might wait 9 months, they might wait even up to a year of future faking, love bombing you, pretending to be like the perfect partner, we're in sync, there's no differences between us, showering you with compliments, getting on the same page with you about everything, making you like really hyper and excited about the relationship because they're essentially perfect, in order to wear down your boundaries and then like sneak in, that way. And
And
that's
they
a very
will,
Neptunian thing.
yeah, and they'll also withdraw the love
Yes.
bomb
Yeah.
at some point. I mean, I think we've
Yep.
all have a I won't call it love bombing where we do this, right?
Yeah.
We get into relationship types, how we do it. Like, we can talk about avoidant personalities, anxious personalities, the big trends last 5 years of
Yeah.
like how love bombing happens with avoidance or even anxious personalities,
Right.
whatever. But we got to remember there's the other side of it. There's like a pull taking it away. And then depending
Yes.
on the other person, they'll start chasing, like you were just doing it, like you're under a spell. Like then you'll come
Yeah.
after them and then you're
Yeah.
like controlled. It could
Yeah.
seem that way. And
Yep.
so there's that. And so mind you, in this case with him and his age and other things, and he's probably, I mean, it's I won't even say it actually.
Yeah.
I won't
Yep.
even say what it goes through a boy's mind, a teenager's mind, if he was hitting his, not what I mean, hitting, like fornicating with his teacher. I'll tell you, that could really seem like a sense of pride with you and your homies. Okay. Like
Right.
it's so fucking
Yeah.
warped. So anyway,
But then
like,
they don't always know, right? And I think it's interesting with Aquarius too, and how she's always advocating for like, people, like she's like, oh yeah, law enforcement is great or whatever. Like she always has all these comments about um there is something with Aquarius about like the social contract or doing what's best for everybody, which is Leo is more doing what's best for me. Aquarius might be, in general terms, Aquarius might be more of doing what's best for the group. And so you see this conflict in her chart, and you see how she's like driven by these fanatical beliefs about her relationship and these obsessive fantasies, which we've talked about in detail. But yeah, the love bombing to me would be the Venus Jupiter square Neptune.
yeah. And
Um, mhm.
so basically, did we people watching, did we love bomb you?
Did we give did we give you all of our love and affection and attention? Yes. Sometimes through Aquarius does shit that does not make sense to them, but anyone else. Yeah, yeah, and
That's true too. There's a little bit of that.
yeah,
I feel that, it's a
yeah,
thing where, um, well, listen,
yeah.
I put the video, the Wikipedia up, the video interview. I'll put it up again. This particular one. There's a bunch of ones if you want to torture yourself, like I did. And
Yeah, if you really
I'll
feel
just,
like you need to torture yourself greatly
I'm
in
definitely
life.
not gonna go look at it again. That's the interview there. The Netflix movie's made December, and definitely before you watch something like that, go look at the factual stuff of this. I'll tell you, watching that real interview with her and like just her body language and everything. Now that you've stuck with us and talked about things here, and you go see it, it's like wow. It's
Mhm. Mhm.
But Mila says people tend to love bomb one another during courtship, and
Yep.
there is, but maybe we shouldn't call it that because we always do this in courtship. We're getting higher, our chemicals are off, we're attracted. It's like
Yeah.
honeymoon phase.
Yep.
Love bombing, as with a lot of things on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter the last 5-6 years, words have changed into other things, and it's good sometimes, but other times, for me personally, it's my personal opinion, changes meaning and definition, and things get blurred. Because if someone is thinking about what is it love bombing when we're courtship, maybe it's actually something else. And if we start using love bombing
Mhm.
in every aspect of courtship or some sort of thing, it loses its definition. Courtship loses its definition. It's just like saying, oh, that person's a narcissist. No, it's like narcissist is actually, I think, been misused, the word.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
gaslighting, even all that, like, just because of
Yes.
what's done
Yeah.
in the masses, people will put, they're doing this. No, they're actually not. Let's not dilute the words for what they're meant for. And
Yep.
so that's just a problem, I think, in our society when we're doing things. So let's just say with the question or the statement that was made here, like, when the courtship housing, we're doing a version of love bombing. Not getting on your case. I think you brought up something. Yes, we do a version of it, but maybe we don't want to say that we're
Yeah.
this version of Mary Kay Letourneau love bombing. Okay, so you
Yeah, and
know,
I also think Mila too might have meant, like, that love bombing tends, if it is gonna happen, it tends to
it
happen
happens
during
during
court.
courtship.
Yeah,
Got
that's the most, like,
I
time of where
okay.
it's gonna happen just
Thank
because,
you, Natalie,
I
and thank
mean,
you. I think I think
yeah.
that's what you're saying for Mila, and I get it now. But I wanna you
Yeah,
could tell
say
my
that it's
personal
not
feelings
this.
about this
Yeah.
shit because it just dilutes
Yep.
real situations. It can.
Yeah.
Um, but, God, now after this, I gotta go find somebody to love bomb.
I
I
know. I know, Nicholas. Like, what have we been
what am I
doing all
doing?
night? Like,
Uh
we've just been sitting here, like, we could be professing our undying love to a stranger we met 5 minutes ago.
We could. Does anybody in here for the first time? Just say something. Let me love bomb you.
Yeah.
Let me stalk you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, Kate, I've been seeing your comments and I'm like, "Yep, yep, we're on the same wavelength." I totally agree with you. If you're a neglected child, any affection can, it just feels, any affection at all, or any s any sign of love is just, yeah.
I just want to show something before we wind out and get out of here.
Mhm.
It's a long stream. It's an
Mhm.
hour more than I wanted.
Than we intended.
Got 40
We're
people
Mercury
hanging
and
with us. So
Gemini. Like, what are we
so
gonna do?
basically, I just want to show you something here because on the outside of this wheel this is stuff that I do. Like, this is Mary Kay's chart, right? So again,
Mhm.
5:15 p.m. Pacific, Orange, California, January 30th, 1962. Okay, so here we're looking. We talked about the Venus Sun. So whenever I see stuff like this, I'm like, when did the actual Venus Sun conjunction happen? And it's 3 days before, pretty much on January 27th. You could see right here that on the
Yeah.
outside wheel, that's when there was the conjunction 6 or 7 degrees. Um,
Before her birthday, or
yeah,
before she
yeah.
was born?
So I'm saying this because if people are studying, and Nick Dagan Best is phenomenal at
That's true. Yep.
Venus transits, Venus
Cycles.
retrograde
Yep.
transits. He's just amazing. I wish he would write a book. He's got courses. Maybe he is. I know he's done a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people who do Venus work, like Venus star point, they call it, prenatal Venus Sun conjunctions, which we're talking about here. This is the prenatal Venus Sun conjunction on the outside. But basically, to have being arrested during Venus retrogrades with a person born pretty much during a Venus Sun conjunction, which in the whole picture of a Venus Sun transit, what happens, you see how this is truly a Venus Sun person. And it doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
all candy. And during the retrogrades that happened at different times, she got arrested. But I just
Mhm.
wanted to point that out, that for those, if you like want to work with a planet in its cycles and stuff, Venus is a great one
Great one.
to really
Yes.
research in your own chart, to look at when the Venus Sun conjunction happened before you were born, and to know that it's a start and end of a cycle at one point, and there's another side of the cycle with a different type of conjunction. We're dealing with inferior and
Yep.
exterior conjunctions. That's all I'm
It's
going to say. But
fascinating.
Mary
Yeah.
Kay's chart runs that way. I
Yes.
want to point out Jane Sanders with a super
Thank you,
chat.
James. Thank you. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is
Thank
very
you,
sweet of
James.
you.
Says, "Nicholas and
Yep.
Natalie, you're a winning team. That was fun and informative."
Aw, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys. I would love to do more of this. This is like for me,
Yeah,
I'm such a
and
astrology
maybe
nerd, like
maybe
yeah,
um, one day we'll get a birth time to, somebody like, whatever what's her name?
Taylor Swift or
Who God, Taylor Swift. Don't get
yeah.
me started. So whatever the case is, it'd be interesting to get birth time because that's a major Venus story happening. Her partner, boyfriend now,
Yeah.
they actually have a Venus Mars conjunction exact. She's Mars in Scorpio, he's Venus in Scorpio,
Yep.
uh, being a Libra. So whatever the case, let's wind down. Okay, I first off,
Indeed
who are
blessed.
you again? Who are you?
And I just saw Indeed Blessed question. Indeed Blessed,
Yes.
that was exactly right where I was going to as well when I was looking at her chart about her medical astrology. And medical astrology is a whole other can of worms. And it's something that I study and like, even though I don't have a medical background, I do study medical astrology. And um, we could go into that maybe next time in another chart. We could really break down, maybe some medical astrology stuff. We just a little bit ran out of time tonight. But thank you so much for your question. And um, sorry, Nicholas, I just saw that. I wanted to hit that
No,
quick.
we're gonna tell
Okay.
your people are gonna know stuff about you. Like, what's the deal?
Yeah,
Who are
yeah.
you?
So, yep. So my name's Natalie H, and I have a channel on YouTube called, Natalie H. You can just look me up. I have tarot readings on my channel. I do a lot of tarot. I started my channel in 2019. I have over 600 videos on my channel. I have, if you like the way that I was breaking down the chart and the detail of it and everything, I do have a playlist on my channel with many different celebrities, really interesting ones. I just did David Icke the other day, which was really funny. So we did a shape shifting lizards live stream. So I'd love to see you guys over on my channel too. And I do natal chart readings as well. And I do personal tarot readings for people. So hit me up for all your divinatory needs. And what about you,
Yeah,
Nicholas?
you're going live a couple times a week, and you're picking a celeb. One we
Yep.
talked about doing here was Heidi Fleiss. We didn't do it.
Right.
There's Heidi's chart is actually that's another great chart to work with.
Yeah.
Is I looked at it,
Yeah.
but Natalie, pretty much when she goes live, she's doing tarot pulls, but the other side of her, she's picking someone well known and breaking it down like she does. I can mention that she said that she's a Libra rising,
Yep.
Mercury and Gemini. She's got Mars in,
In Virgo.
so you could see her
Let's
mind here.
go
Um,
crazy on the details, everybody.
yeah, and we've known each other for a long time, and so
Yep.
finally we talked about doing this for a long time. I'm using a software that's different than I usually do to do this, and I think we pulled it through.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody that stuck with us. I made a mistake here. I should have been making chapter markers while we've been doing this.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna go through, and it's gonna take me a day to chapter
Bless your
mark this
soul.
one. And I
Bless your
just didn't
soul.
think about it, and that's okay. To see where
Yep.
my brain's, I'm already thinking of what I have to do.
Yep.
But anyway, I, her YouTube channel link I put in the chat. Okay. And then the
Thank
second
you.
link I put is to her website, her Squarespace website that she has. Okay. And
Yep.
for those who don't know me, my name is
The beautiful Hermes.
what the people, my name is my name my name is Nicholas. My name is Nicholas Polymenakos. Many
Okay.
crafty, by the
Yep.
way, sparkles of gold, if you don't know who I am. And I have a website, the sparklesofgold.com. I'll put it in here. I should have loaded this up for myself. I have a YouTube channel called Sparkles of Gold Astrology, right?
Yep.
And I'm on social media. I'll put my website here. I'm on social media. I got my IG. Follow me on IG, Sparkles of Gold IG. I post stories there. I do certain posts. I'm on Threads. I'm on Mastodon and Blue Sky. I'm working those angles over there.
Wow.
So and I have something else I'm
Yeah.
working on, but I have a Patreon. I have a nice group of members who throw money my way every month, $3 to $5 a month on there. You could see the links there on my website, find them. But on YouTube, I do weekly forecasts. I do certain things. And when I do my live streams, I do it differently.
And they're fun. The thing about Nicholas is Nicholas doesn't let it get boring. He keeps it
I
fun. He keeps it
I do it
engaging. He's
differently.
technology genius as well. Like I barely do social media.
Let me
So
see if I can do this because I have different software. So this might not be good. I have music going through, and I don't think it's coming up
yeah.
on the screen. So I do attempts of that, but anyway, you could follow me on YouTube. So I do visual stuff. You can go to my channel and take a look at what I'm doing. So saying that, we want to thank
Yeah.
all of you for hanging in there. And
We really appreciate it for joining
yeah,
us and
and you know
being
what I
kind and
recognized here,
wonderful.
Natalie, with the people in the chat
Yeah.
is that they asked really good questions
Yep.
and they know there's astrology because they were chiming in and making great observations,
Yep.
right?
1000%.
And
Yes.
I uh, when I see that, and even though like during the stream, like, hey, Natalie, explain what Ketu Rahu is, and then we went on a Dasha thing.
Yeah.
Stay on
Yep.
track, but it's not like we were avoiding you. It's just we can only do so much. But
Right. Yeah.
it to me shows that you all are present and that I'm a professional astrologer, and so is Natalie, tarot card reader. But even if you don't think of yourself as that, or you're learning or whatever else, a lot of what I've seen here is some deeper understanding of things. So,
Yep.
if you're studying and you're thinking about taking it to the next level, you're doing stuff like that, don't let anything stop you because I see some of the comments in chat and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Yep. I
So,
love it. And we all come from different traditions and different teachers, so we might look at things a little bit different ways, but at the same day, we're all speaking the same language and we all love astrology and we love that you came here to
yep,
spend time
yep.
with us. Thank you very much, everyone. Love bombing you all from now until the end of time. Mwah. And
Oh man,
yes.
that's
Yeah.
something Mary Kay would say to the end of
End of
time.
time to the endless river of devotion. Yep.
Yeah, so
Yes.
please subscribe to Natalie's channel and subscribe to mine. And I want to thank everybody who joined
Mhm.
in and went for this 3 hours
Yep.
close. And
Yep.
uh, in the future we'll probably do something down the line again.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely. I had the most fun. I was looking forward to this all week. I was pumped all day. I could barely sleep last night. So excited.
yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank you for having
was
me.
technically behind the scenes there. That's where my brain was. But
Amazing too. Amazing job making the stream like technically work out well and
yeah,
everything. Appreciate
and I
that.
won't tell those watching what's really on my mind, what I'd really like to do. I have to keep things secret, but if I have things might happen in a certain way in the next month, if whether it's Natalie and I do another stream or I do some other collab or whatever, there's certain things I'm going to add that will make it very interesting and fun.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay.
more fun when astrologers collaborate because you get so many like perspectives and ideas on things, and it's just a really fun experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. So,
anyway, well, we'll say
Natalie,
goodnight to everybody. Yeah.
uh, we'll talk soon. Okay, you and I, all right, and we'll
Yep.
connect. Um, and I guess yeah. Thanks for everybody in chat. I see your stuff there. Okay, I'm gonna
Yep.
go eat chocolate.
I know, right? I'm about ready to go scarf down 10 chocolate bars after that moon, Jupiter and
I'm
Taurus.
glad we did this. Like your idea of doing this on Valentine's Day, like we ended up here,
Yep.
because I I won't get into my personal thing with this day, but I think it flowed and it was a good that we did this together. And for those watching or happen to watch, whatever your situation or whatever this day means to you, I'm just, like, it's it worked out. I learned some things. Valentine's Day, I learned that. I
Yeah.
learned what Delulu means.
The
Uh,
Delulus. Yep.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are Delulus today.
yeah. I'm definitely
Aw.
Delulu at this point, I think.
You guys were all our dates. Thank you for being here with us. Appreciate it, everybody. And we'll see you and talk to you again soon, okay? Take care, everybody. Night, night. Bye
Bye.
bye.